Greg Cody, we have missed you around here. You haven't been here for a couple of weeks after getting that flap, that awning removed from your belly button. Did you see what I just saw in the other room as Roy gets makeup? And I was told that our biggest makeup aficionados at Metal Arc Media are Mike Ryan and David Sampson, that they're the ones that most enjoy a good pampering and makeup. But I was shocked to see moments ago Mike Ryan getting his elbows lubricated by Jess. He was getting lotions put on his elbows that seemed extravagant to me.
I don't care what my elbows look like. I've never raised them and looked at them in the mirror. I think I've got handsome elbows, but who cares about what an elbow looks like? I
mean, you're hiding them right now for someone who's so proud of their elbows.
I'm not proud, but I just have never been one to take pride in that particular body part.
All right, so you're saying you've never seen your elbows?
I don't know what they look like.
What body part do you take pride in?
We don't want to get too personal.
Anthony Edwards over here.
I don't know how to answer that question. I have beautiful feet. I used to be a foot model.
You don't have beautiful feet. Stop. You've got talons. You don't have beautiful feet.
Back in the foot model day.
You know how tired you are with this line? It's two lines that you have together.
What's that?
I have beautiful feet never ends that thought. I used to be a foot model has been coming after that for 30 years.
It's what he says every time.
You don't have beautiful feet, and that's a tired old line. Get a new one.
Okay, it's the truth. I happen to be proud of it. I don't know if there's any other.
You were not a foot model.
I used to be.
What year?
In college age.
Greg.
You know.
What were you doing as a foot model?
I was in a couple of magazine ads.
The before?
Sandals were big back then. I remember doing an ad for a sandal. You could ask my wife that. She, I'm not making anything. Everybody thinks I make stuff up. I say I was in a major motion picture. I didn't make
How much
that
were
up.
you paid to be a foot model?
I think it was $75 or something.
Really? That's a golden age of foot modeling.
Well, I mean, it was a magazine ad or a newspaper ad or something. You go, they shoot your foot for 1 hour and they give you a bunch of money, and it would seem like a bunch of money at the time. And then you go away and you forget about it for 40 years. But elbows, I just never think of my elbow, never look at my elbow, never consider my elbow. What delineates between a great-looking elbow and a below-average-looking elbow? I have no idea.
Was this for an ad for toenail fungus ointment?
It would be now, to your point.
Elbows get dry, to answer your question. And if you don't lotion them up, they can get kind of...
Exactly.
Yeah.
The problem is no one really thinks of their elbows, which is why Jesse, our makeup artist, will give Mike a nice little rub of the elbow. I saw Mike this morning.
It ain't just me.
No, it's not.
A lot of people subscribing to the full service elbow.
I'm Aquaphor up right now. All right. Yeah. This morning I saw Mike get more insecure than I've ever seen Mike get insecure in his whole life, because Jessie knows all of his weaknesses and she knows everything that makes him feel insecure. And she peeled some dry skin off of his ear, and he was mortified. And then she said, "Mike, did you piss yourself?" And he looked down, and there was a wet spot on his shirt and lower groin area. And he walked out of the room with his tail tucked between his legs like I've never seen in my life.
And now we're talking about it on the show.
Thank you, guys.
Did you piss yourself?
Yeah, man, I pissed myself. It's a great segment we got here.
Nothing wrong with that.
Stop that. Stop that. Stop that. I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the walking. Just too sharp with the prize. White girls let it tell me I'm awesome. Yeah, hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch me, please use caution. Cold like 0 degrees. I'm out the cage, gotta let out the beast. Revolutionary, gotta let out the streets. Locked in a cage, I'ma let out the sheets. We can't go on, man, forget my peace. We take the west side, take on the east. I'ma put them in the cage, never let out the. I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the boys. Not so tough, but man's keep walking. Yeah, just too sharp with the prize. Right, yeah. Stop that. Stop that. Stop that.
Stugotz out again with a toothache. I'm pretty sure he's going to miss the draft tomorrow night as part of the award-winning God Bless Football's coverage of the draft with a toothache. That is early for that advertisement to come up on our show. It says with Stugotz, Dan Le Batard Show with Stugotz, but neither Dan Le Batard nor Stugotz. Well, maybe Stugotz will be there. I don't know. But at present, he has a toothache and can't make it. Greg says this is his hell week because the draft has produced already a couple of anonymous quotes. Okay.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. A head coach was quoted by Diana Rossini as saying there are no Robert De Niros in this draft. I don't think young people know what that means. There are no.
Love it.
That is an old coach with saying that there are no great players in this draft. It is not going to stop us from covering the holy hell out of this draft. But Shedeur Sanders is now getting smeared anonymously, even louder than before. An NFL assistant coach, according to Tom Pelissero, quote, "The worst formal interview I've ever been in my life. He's so entitled. He takes unnecessary sacks. He never plays on time. He has horrible body language. He blames teammates. But the biggest thing is he's not that good." This is the famous guy in the draft, and this is the famous thing that happens this time of year every time to usually somebody who looks a lot like Shedeur Sanders when the anonymous quotes come flying from the people who still admire Robert De Niro as a marquee movie star. The old coaches are speaking anonymously. I hate this. One of the many reasons I hate this time of year.
Well, if Marv Levy and Don Shula were still alive, the reference would have been there are no Laurence Oliviers in this draft. So we have moved forward on that.
Progress.
But it's a terrible draft for quarterbacks. I've been saying that, and I sound like a curmudgeon. I sound like I'm anti-Cam Ward. But he'd be the fourth or fifth best guy if it was a year ago. He's the luckiest man on earth right now.
Maybe last year's was just really good.
This year's is not good. We had Field Yates.
Maybe this one's average and last year's was great.
Okay, we had Field Yates on our podcast, The Greg Cody Show, and he talked a lot about the draft and the quarterback, and he totally agrees with me. Shedeur Sanders will be lucky to go ninth to New Orleans. After that, he could really, really tumble in the first round. I hate anonymous quotes. As someone who's in journalism and occasionally has used an anonymous quote, I really, really hate them because the reader has every bit of entitlement to think, is that a made-up quote? Is he just making that shit up? Because it's possible to do that, in journalism. So if you're anonymously quoting somebody, I take it with a grain of salt.
Okay, so before we get too deep into the NFL draft, and we're not going to do a lot of this today because Stan Van Gundy's going to be on with us, David Sampson's going to be on with us. I do want to talk to Chris, Mike, and Roy about something that I found disorienting last night. I don't know if Jess checked in with the hockey game. She was at a lovely party that I was invited to very late, too late to get to. Late enough to make me wonder whether I was actually wanted there. I don't know.
Wow.
But we'll get into that with Jess in a
If I
moment.
may, I get a lot of these from you. A lot of these very late invites where I'm supposed to mobilize and find myself in South Beach, like an hour
I don't
beforehand.
blame this on Jess. I don't even know if it was a surprise party or I don't blame this on Jess. I just got late notice to the party, and it seemed like a lot of work people were at the party.
If I may, there was notice of the party in Slack that you didn't see.
Okay.
Slack.
That is
Please.
me. That's me slacking.
Does that make
Our communication is slacking.
Well, not in this case. It was in Slack.
The reason I wanted to ask Chris, Roy, and Mike this is because I am still 30 years in this market. I still walk in today with a level of legitimate confusion about how much progress has been made in this market in hockey when I'm coming in today and I'm like, what do you mean the Florida Panthers played a no-problem, easy playoff game against the Tampa Bay Lightning? That's not normalized enough for me yet to understand that the playoffs begin with, Tkachuk rested. That's what that looks like when it's not him trying to play as a torso the last two postseasons. Him rested. Nate Schmidt, you got to be Schmidting me. Get out of here. Nate Schmidt, 2 goals. I'm not yet I'm not yet in a place where I get that this is the best hockey team in the world.
That's strange. I mean, they beat them in 5 games last year on their way to a Stanley Cup, their second straight Stanley Cup appearance in the final. So, I mean, I understand what you're saying because Tampa was so dynastic, but this is, I mean, Florida's already had like a 3-year
No, but
run.
it's not just that. It's still Vasilevsky. Like it's still.
He was the second best 88 on the ice.
But I'm saying that's still that goalie. Like I've seen that snuff out a blueprint by getting hot in the playoffs. Like I understand that you guys are looking at me where you been, but I expect Tampa to turn into something else in the playoffs. I don't expect the Panthers to do it.
They did it last year. I mean, but to your point, I think if Tampa wins Game 2 6-2, nobody's surprised. At least I'm not. If this series goes 7 games, nobody's surprised.
These games are close.
I would
Greg,
not.
The hockey playoffs have started, and the teams are close, and the games are close.
But I would not put too much emphasis on the fact that they won Game 1 easily, because I think it's going to be
Okay, but can I do this
Yeah.
though, please? They went on the road in the place where they made championships in hockey in Florida matter and made it look easy. Like, no. That's the gulf between the Celtics and the Heat now from when they were close, and the gulf between the Lightning and the Panthers now in terms of the attitude you guys have of like, yeah, we expected that. I don't go into that expecting that.
Well, one, everybody except for Aaron Ekblad returned to the ice. So the Panthers, they can basically run 5 lines out there right now as far as their forwards is concerned. And 2, you can beat Andre Vasilevsky by creating traffic. The first 2 goals that they had were via deflection because he couldn't really see the puck and he couldn't adjust to it.
Sam Bennett bunting it in. What a pass.
was
What a
great.
pass from Samoskevich.
Oh, my God. How do you do that? A waist-high pass, and he's using his stick to put it in. That's unbelievable.
You guys can say to me that's how you beat Vasilevsky. I've seen him beat the Panthers. I've seen the most overwhelming offense I had ever seen in a Panthers uniform snuffed out by that person. So you can tell me the way he can be beat.
That's like 3 years ago, though.
That was a whole completely different style
Totally
that the Panthers
Yeah,
had.
that was a different Panther team. Florida actually did quite well against Vasilevsky last season. I'm always going to have that PTSD, so I'm with you, but I don't think you're allowed to be surprised by it anymore. And maybe what you're doing is 30 years in this market covering this team, understanding that this is such an outlier on their timeline as a franchise as a whole that any kind of success still is bewildering. But at a certain point, when it comes to these 2 teams, we have to realize that the dynamic has shifted some. That being said, Tampa has home ice in this series for a reason.
Not anymore.
Well, not anymore. But Tampa retooled their roster. They got rid of Sergachev. They got rid of Stamkos. They brought in Gensel. They have more guys playing the best hockey of their careers right now after that reshaping of their roster. So, like, this is still going to be a long series, I think.
My biggest takeaway from last night was John Cooper seemed panicked. That challenge was a bad challenge. It cost them another goal.
Yep.
It just kind of seemed like he felt 3-1. I have to challenge this. I don't even know if it's going to work, but it's just I'm desperate right now. And that was just that was good to see. I love John Cooper. That interview, they asked him, why'd you challenge that? He's like, these things go
Were you
either
mad
way.
at Kachuk for the mistake early? Did you get mad at him?
After a 3-point game, I don't
the
think
penalty?
anybody was. Like,
No.
yeah, but look, they're power play merchants. You have to stay out of the box. When Florida has had success against Tampa in the playoffs, it's because they played disciplined hockey. But last night, those 2 teams weren't even remotely close. Forsling was doing the same things to Kucherov that he'd been doing his entire career. That guy has Kucherov in absolute hell. I think for me, the biggest surprise, outside of Nate Schmidt playing a good hockey game and scoring 2 goals randomly, was how sharp Matthew Tkachuk looked. That goal that he had in the crease where he just had Vasilevsky having no idea where he was going to go.
He could have deked 14 more times.
It was incredible.
He stood there just going back and forth.
And he had so much room in front of him. I think that's the thing. Like, Tampa's going to have to – they'll have a day to adjust, and I imagine they'll have a different defensive effort, but they were a bit of a nightmare with those pass
The thing
lanes.
that I'm saying though is easy on the road. Like that's the amount of excellence that the Panthers are presently giving us ranks historically now over 3 years with any of the best of what we've had in this market. you guys are flipping about what Tampa was and like it was a long time ago. And I understand things age quickly, but in the state of Florida, that has made hockey matter because its excellence is now what the Panthers are looking to embark on. They've just started this part of the journey, but going on the road and beating that team, that goalie, that franchise, like I'm still not, I will not shrug that off. Having seen Pavel Bure have great seasons and then get swept in the playoffs, not win a single playoff game because it's hard to win on the road or at home or anywhere in the hockey playoffs. These games are all close. That one wasn't.
But this is not a flash in the pan. The Panthers have been really good for 4 years. This qualifies now as sustained excellence. They have a great GM, a great coach, elite players. But to the point I made earlier about this probably going to be a 7-game series, Tampa Bay is really, really good. They led the NHL in goal scoring. They led the Eastern Conference in giving up the fewest goals. Their goals differential was the best in the league by a lot. This is a really good team. Last night, to me, showed the impact of Matthew Tkachuk. You can say that the heart of this team is Alexander Barkov. Say whatever you want. The heart of this team is Matthew Tkachuk. He's the spirit. He's the spark. And, man, did that show
Mike Ryan,
night.
the last couple of postseasons, has been talking about banged up. Somebody's banged up. In that sport, we know that these have been the body part remains of Tkachuk by the end of these seasons because of whatever he gets ground down to, however many surgeries and needles and ridiculousness he has to endure to just get on the ice. Him not playing for 2 months, I can't even imagine how much his body has recovered, but it looked like it last night.
I just looked it up. Outside of the Vegas series in the final 2 seasons ago, the Panthers have won the first road playoff game of every series. So this is honestly what they do. They go on the road, they shock a team, and then they'll give one at home and kind of even it out. But the Panthers have started series on the road fantastically.
Did you guys feel a statement shivering up and down the coast of Florida? Is that what you guys felt last night?
Statement game.
A statement shivering up and down the coast. Was it felt along the whole coastline? Did it get to Canada, the statement?
I think the statement is like top to bottom. This is the deepest Florida Panther team that we've seen in a while. Roy's absolutely right. They can go 5 lines deep.
You guys are saying they're deeper than last year. You're saying they're better than last year, is what you're saying.
No, I'm not saying that they're better than last year. I'm just flatly saying they're deeper. I mean, we'll see. Florida last year was a nightmare to play with. Can they ratchet up that kind of intensity? They have a more flair type of wingers this year than last year. Last year they had some like goons on. Especially on that fourth line. This year, your fourth line is Evan Rodriguez and Jesper Boquist, which is insane to me. Your third liner has Brad Marchand's a third liner, and he's by far the worst forward of that 3.
Uh-oh.
Here we are again.
I don't think he was good.
You were still yelling about this before the show. I got to talk
If Brad
to you.
Marchand's name wasn't Brad Marchand and it was, say, for example, AJ Greer, we'd be wondering, why does this guy get so much playing time?
It's just
He's
odd.
a veteran.
It's just odd to do it. Like he had a couple bad plays last night, and he had a play that created a goal, and it's like you're dismissing that play.
No, I saw the shot near post that created the goal that was actually created by Lusty. And then Schmidt just cleaned it up. But
it just seems unnecessary to do this after last night.
No, it's a whole thing. Like, he's going to get opportunities because he's playing with good players, and I don't think his output would be better than Jesper, for example, or Evan Rodriguez. Evan Rodriguez led the Stanley Cup final in goals, and he's a fourth liner on this team right now. My whole thing with Brad Marchand is he's just not the same player, and if his name wasn't that, we'd be feeling a little differently about it.
I'm pro Rodriguez always. He owes us a shirtless roller coaster ride. He said if they won the title that he would come on shirtless and do a roller coaster. Mike's getting a bit out of control in general on Marchand. It's a little bit messy. But he's also at the high end of, I got a squad in a sport that I like. It's physical. And so he comes in here this morning, and he's been doing this for a minute. He turns on his music. And I don't think anybody here was ready at 8 a.m. for whatever it is that was. I heard some Pearl Jam, but the rest of you wake differently than the rest. There are different wake-ups here, right? So that music was aggressive for 8 a.m., was it not?
It's too early to be listening to Eddie Vedder.
You can always tell Mike's mood by the music that you get when you walk in. In general, I like the music, but there are some days I'm like, oh, we're in a mood today.
Well, that's a hockey song. That's a hockey sound.
Well, what was today? Look, different people receive music different ways. I will tell you that clubhouses are temperamental places. I have seen Albert Bell take a bat to a thermostat because he wanted the temperature where he wanted it, and other people
that's
wanted
Albert
it.
Bell, though.
No, but Jose leaned. I've seen him throw like a hunting knife across the locker room and embed itself in a wall because he didn't like the clubhouse music. He wanted Latin music, and there were like schisms in their locker room.
Well, Ricky's got 20 years in this clubhouse, and part of his process artistically before the show is dating back to when he would do the prep in his studio would be to just play music the entire
time. Are you
time.
referring to yourself in the third person?
Yeah.
Oh, that does not sound great.
That's what Ricky does. So
in terms of choosing the music around here, I'm asking the group. I have not taken the temperature of the group. I was asking because the music hit me in the side of the face, and I was looking around the room, and I generally don't tend to hear music very much for whatever the reason is. But the rest of the room, I'm looking around, and I couldn't tell how everybody else was receiving that music. But this morning, it hit me aggressively. And so I'm asking you, how did it feel this morning to you?
It wasn't playing when I walked in, but I like Pearl Jam. I love Eddie Vedder. I respect them. And like I say, it has to fit the mood. It has to fit. If we're talking about the Panthers coming off a big win, that's a song that fits the mood.
Okay, because it did feel like a hockey. It did feel a little. It felt like after a Game 1 hockey playoff went in here, and I wasn't ready for it in the morning.
It was an angry confidence, is how I would describe it.
I'm just seeing Pearl Jam tomorrow, so I wanted to listen to some Pearl Jam.
There you go.
Can we go back to Dan saying you don't hear music? What do you mean?
Yeah, what's
by
going on
that?
there?
I very often get lost in my thoughts, and so I tune out music or tune out sounds. It just sounds in general, and so
I'm sorry about that. But look, we've had plenty of show moments by ratcheting up the vibe here before, like when we have a segment that goes viral occasionally of us doing cafecito shots because we were playing Daft Punk's One More Time because the vibes that Friday morning were really cooking. I like it when people respond to the music. I also know that when I'm not here, people really aren't playing the music because my Bluetooth connects to it right away. So afford me that. That's part of my process, please.
I like that. No, I like that. We need somebody to set the vibe in here. I would love a song or music that is anti-vibe. You know, just once in my life, I want to walk into a clubhouse, a sports clubhouse, and hear Adele, for example. You know, just something that isn't stereotypical. Yeah.
We do that all the time over here.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'm very moody.
And what kind of vibe is that setting, though, if you're playing Adele?
The
thing
thing that I would ask about my aesthetic and my vibe at this late age in life, when I'm walking in and I'm telling Roy, Mike, and Chris, and like, yeah, no, Dan, they're champions, and we expect to be champions because we're the Panthers, and we're champions, and we're going to walk around like we're champions, and I'm supposed to get used to, oh yeah, you just dropped a half a dozen goals on the on Tampa Bay Lightning, and I come in here, and because I know what the next 3 months are about to feel like for us, in terms of a ransacking. We've got to pace ourselves. Your son has been heavy-tongued, and we just got started. Like he hasn't been able to speak all week because he watched a Heat play-in game. And so I need to pace ourselves because what you guys are telling me and what the Panthers are saying to me in a statement that felt across the coast and into Canada is, nah, we still got the best team. Down here, we're going to do what Tampa did where they'd add bodies late in the season, and ours is going to be Kachuk. But Mike Ryan's got to pace himself. You can't open with Queens of the Stone Age. You gotta build up to that. You can't start.
That was a good pull by Dan. Unexpected. Guys, I just played Pearl Jam. It was Given to Fly. Like, it's a very soft song.
Yeah,
like, sometimes I'm with you. I'll be listening to death metal occasionally, but today I am pacing myself. In fact, you're the one putting the cart before the horse. I still think this is going to be a very long series.
There's enough heavy metal and hard rock to last the entire playoffs. We don't want to have to worry about running out of that. But I agree with Mike. It's going to go 7 games. Tampa might win the next game 6-2. I totally reject the idea that it's the Panthers who made the statement last night. They're the reigning champion. It's the other team.
Oh, wait
that
a
has
minute,
to make
though.
the statement.
Everybody on ESPN picked the Lightning. Hold on a second.
They were the hot team.
No, wait a minute. Everybody picked the Lightning. It wasn't just in the game. It's in the series. It's to get to the final. No.
But Greg is saying if you win a championship, you can't make a statement. Like, you never have to make a statement, right, Greg? Like, the statement has been made when you won the championship.
Yes, that's exactly right. And when I say the onus was on Tampa Bay to make that statement, Tampa, it was home. They scored the most goals this season. It was on them to say, hey, you're coming into our house now, champions. Watch who's better tonight. And they fell flat.
That was excellent trash talk by you.
Quite
They
the
fell
promo.
flat, but it doesn't mean that the series is going to be like this. It ain't.
At what age are you and I too old to be into our house? You're coming into our
Yeah,
house.
well, you're too old to say that. I can still get away with it because I've got the street cred.
My dad is right. Although they ended up winning 6-2, I buckled an imaginary seatbelt when it was 1-1 in the first period. Like, this is going to be a scary series. Like, I'm not getting overly confident.
Roy's not
because
going to do scared.
I blame John Cooper for this being a blowout last night. I think if John Cooper doesn't challenge that goal, I think it's a closer game, and I'm still worried about this series.
I was not happy about that penalty that Matthew Tkachuk took because that's not a playoff penalty.
No, you need that.
That was a weak roughing call.
Chucky's back, first period, Kucherov, you lay the wood on him. You take the penalty, and you kill the penalty like they did.
They gave
They
up
gave it a goal.
They cost them a goal.
It was still a good penalty.
4 seconds left. But keep in mind,
That was not a good. No, that was a
Not a
terrible
good
penalty call
penalty.
by the referee. Terrible penalty.
I'm not gonna be that guy. It's fine. You got to be
That's
careful.
what
when you
Chucky
play Tampa.
does.
Yeah.
Like,
And
what
keep
are
in
we
mind,
doing here?
like we still owe Kucherov a little something. There's a receipt coming his way.
All right, I don't like this. It's what Chucky does. There's a receipt coming his way.
Yeah, Kucherov was
in
dirty.
our
Stuck his leg
house.
out.
We're one game in.
That's right.
And look, we have annoyed the holy hell out of America with heat talk the last 15 years. We're going to slide effortlessly into tune-out content of flexing our house. I'm still worried about a close series. But you just saw a champion, a hockey champion, about to promise us 3 months, 2 months of what Greg Cody's beginning today with what he's calling Hell Week, because he's got the NFL draft. Have you guys not seen the last couple of years the battering that Greg Cody has taken, the difference, the before and after photo on what he looks like by the time we get to June? When hockey has ransacked him and basketball has ransacked him,
Brother, this is a glass house.
why is this week Hell Week for you?
Well, this week in particular, because NFL draft, which isn't happening a week from now, Heat playoffs, which probably won't be still happening a week from now. That could be a sweep. But Panthers are in for a long run. Okay, so it's Hell Week now because I'm juggling 3 things. Having said that, it's also a delightful week because my favorite thing in life is to be able to bitch and moan and complain about things that I love, right? So that's what I can do this week only, okay? The journalist in me can say, wow, I am so blessed to be living in this city where there's so much going on. I have one great team in the playoffs, one lucky to be there. NFL draft, Dolphins drafting 13th. Who are they going to pick?
A local guy going number 1.
Cam Ward, absolutely luckiest man on earth, Cam Ward. But I also like to complain about it because I'm too old to do this shit. That's part of me. So I love both sides.
Let me examine this for a second, because I do believe that America's greatest pastime right now is complaining. I think it's the greatest sport.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
I put it on the poll at Le Batard Show.
And racism, by the way.
It's all in the same. It's in the same.
Complaining and racism,
No,
all in the same
it's
boat.
all in the same.
It takes all of us.
All of us are complaining about.
Took some of them.
That's not about racism. That's just about complaining on the NFL helmets. It takes all of us.
Look, I believe we are no more united as a people as we are around. Let's just all complain about everything. It is the great sport. But when he says that this is the only week that he has where it's something he absolutely loves and he's allowed to complain about it, that is the descent of the American sports media as it ages. Like, that is exactly how it is. You cover sports, kind of hating it, kind of complaining about it, and also while celebrating it, because the content machine can't be all pure. Like, the amount of excess that this NFL draft has now become, where it really is the intersection of, you love college football, you miss it. You love pro football, you miss it. You're bored by baseball and MMA and basketball. You're just sitting around waiting for football to get back. All right, we're going to throw in the middle of the NBA playoffs this giant thing in the middle of the NHL playoffs, an event where we're just transactions. And America's going to eat every bit of it up. Wildly entertaining simulcasts all over the place. A spectacle, like to see sports become that this night become like second to like the Super Bowl outside of games is a nutty evolution.
I've always, like over the last few years, it took a couple of like deeper runs, especially with the Panthers getting good in hockey. That helped, but it's not the Super Bowl for me. It's certainly not March Madness for me because the games don't actually live up. To me, this is the best time on the sports calendar. You have both playoffs starting their first rounds. You have like 4 game nights in both leagues going off. You have the NFL draft. Hell, you got Talladega going on this week. You just had WrestleMania.
Masters.
You're coming off the Masters. Like this month of sports to me is why I love it so much. You have big time European soccer games, all of it. All happening at the same time.
Messi. We haven't even talked about Messi.
I was about to say, oh, by the way, we have the most famous athlete in the world leading Inter Miami into the semifinals of what would be their biggest trophy. So what a wonderful time, to Mike's point. It's just terrific. But I can complain because I'm working too hard, blah, 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 blah. But I love it, sort of. Be glad when it's over. But I love it now.
It's been a lovely cruise.
It really is.
Over the next couple of months, he's going to take a battering. He begins with surgery. All right, he's tumbling out of surgery. He's been out for 2 weeks. This chair is going to take a battering. Stugotz is out with a toothache. You've seen Zaslow's been battered over the last couple of weeks. Where's your status? Zaslow's going to be around for the next couple of months. What is your status with him and your rivalry?
I don't consider it to be a rivalry. I mean, I don't know. Is he still wearing backward caps? I haven't kept track of him.
He is.
Okay, he's still doing that.
Greg is Don Draper right now. He's saying, I don't think about him at all.
Yeah, not a big fan of middle-aged men wearing backward caps.
Oh,
But
my God.
I love
yesterday for
Zaslow.
me.
Yeah, he's great. I mean,
Do you love Zaslow?
Yeah,
Do you?
No, I mean, I respect his place in this market. Been down here a long time, leaning into a mic, longer than I have. And
Can we just replay the last few seconds? You said, I love him. Dan says, do you love him? And you said, no.
Well, I mean,
He
I
doesn't love him.
No, I don't because I don't know him that well. I know him casually.
Why'd you say you love him then?
I'm a
shows
nice
together.
person.
We'll do more shows together, and you guys can
Do you like him?
build some camaraderie.
I think the only
I like him. Sure, why wouldn't I?
I like him.
I think the only thing in their relationship that brings them apart is you, Dan.
Yeah.
Yeah, shit stir.
Like
It's a
you
point-
love.
It's a point.
Yeah, he's a
Zaslow,
divisive
look,
force.
Right, Zaslow has
He's-
privately mocked my dad for
He's
years.
doing it. He's like, even like when we're all on the same topic, he'll still like inject, the audience hates this shit. That sucks.
Look, Zaslow can mock me all the. I don't care if behind my back he gives you a snarky call about a column I've just written that he didn't like. Could care less. It's a grain of sand on the beachhead that is me. Okay.
What a bar.
Look.
I love you, Greg.
Look, the part you guys say that I'm shit stirring here, okay? But the part that is unsaid, and I can swear to you, Greg's never said to me anything about Zaslow that is negative. But I know that Greg doesn't respect Zaslow as a journalist because the print guys don't love the way the radio guys do business. And this is a print guy. So without even asking Greg, I know how he feels about the entity that is Sports Radio Zaslow.
Understood, but you did ask him.
I will say this. If you're looking at me saying, yeah, I'm a journalist, while you're wearing a Panthers jersey, it doesn't necessarily fly.
I do think, and Dan's guilty of this, I think everybody is, like people tend to confuse journalists and insiders or personalities. Like, even though I own, for example, I own a Canes media company.
Sure.
We do a fair amount. I'm on today at 1 o'clock. Co-hosting with D-Money and Peter Rees. Check it out. Official Canes Insight. Subscribe. We do a fair amount of journalism, really good journalism. I don't think there's anybody that covers the Miami Hurricanes top to bottom better than us. But I myself am not a journalist. I vet things through journalism means, especially like when I get involved in some of that story, but I never pretend to. I didn't go to journalism school. I don't have the bona fides. I'm an insider, I guess.
Sure.
And I apply those rules, but I think all too often we lump people into journalists and also into journalism, and also people are way too comfortable calling themselves journalists when they're not.
Right.
I think that is an earned title. It's like calling myself a doctor just because, I bandaged somebody up one time. I think that there's a procedure that you go through.
Yeah. No, you're right. It's a gray area now where it didn't used to be. You are absolutely a Canes insider. Zaslow may be an expert on the Panthers. I'm just saying if you tout your expertise while wearing a Panthers jersey, what you are is not impartial. That's what you are.
And you don't respect that.
I respect it less from a journalism standpoint, right? Like.
But Mike's
Like he went to school. Like he went to school. He's a columnist in this market for a long time. Like I get that. It's like it might be a bygone era.
All right, look.
But
speaking of journalists,
Creepy look.
Jessica, I wanted to ask you about this because
I'm not a journalist either.
You've done.
But I do know who Edward R. Murrow is, unlike your son, Greg.
Yeah, wow.
Did you know that your son didn't know and still doesn't know? I'm sure he didn't look it up when he got home either. That your son doesn't know who Edward R.
I
Murrow
know who
is.
Edward R. Murrow was the mentor of Walter Cronkite, my son.
He doesn't know
I
who
know
that
Ed.
is either.
I
he
know
also
Ed.
knows Walter. Yeah.
He doesn't know who's Walter Cronkite.
Walter Cronkite is, we are, like, isn't it? Mike used to do
Richard
the
Nixon.
voice.
That's Richard Nixon.
Finish,
Tom Brokaw.
finish the sentence.
Brokaw. That's who I thought it was.
He has no idea.
In that
who
same vein, he's the
Okay,
same thing.
look.
Journalist.
Terrible news today as
There
you
you go.
confuse me with Walter Cronkite.
Those guys are close, no?
I'm from the greatest generation.
Okay. Jessica, I do think you have both studied and worked as a journalist, but the thing that I wanted to ask you guys, because Kevin Clark, it has been great delight to go from speaking at Michelle Kaufman's University of Miami class, where Kevin Clark is, to watching Kevin Clark today get to be on Paul Feinbaum, and he's going to enrage all of Paul Feinbaum's audience because he's going to be aggressively Miami, and that has never happened on the Feinbaum show. And Kevin Clark, you know what of him, Jessica? Like, are you guys friendly away from work?
Yes, we're friends. These photoshops of Kevin Clark as Paul Feinbaum that I'm seeing neither look like Kevin Clark nor Paul Feinbaum.
Alarming.
And I would we need more journalists. We need more people proficient in Photoshop to be working in this field because these are very poorly done.
Greg Cody, that's a $5 fine. Your phone is not functioning correctly. Please pay the fine bucket.
When you hold it below the table, none of
yeah.
us know what you're doing.
Yes,
That's good.
sure will.
So sloppy work by you.
Yeah.
I expect this to continue to get worse. What are you guys expecting from Kevin Clark on Feinbaum? He's going to represent Miami, correct?
Oh, yeah. I know parts of the audience get annoyed when I hijack this show with Kane's takes. Buckle up because Kevin is going to espouse all sorts of like anti-SEC things too. Like he's going to take advantage of his audience there. I'm so excited to watch Kevin do this. And I know like Kevin relishes this opportunity. This is like a holy grail assignment for Kevin Clark.
Is he going to be able to, from inside the machine, troll Feinbaum's audience by being a professional wrestling heel in costume as an actual journalist / insider? Because he's Kevin Clark.
He's going to give his takes, which are very pro-Miami, but the way that he does things, it's so matter of fact that and dry that I'm going to really enjoy him doing that to an SEC-heavy audience.
But here again, getting back to what we were talking about a minute ago, if he's going on there for the express purpose of cheerleading the Miami Hurricanes, yet you just referred to him as a journalist?
Kevin Clark is a journalist.
He's
Okay.
not going there for that purpose.
So,
He's going there to film it.
a journalist, by however you define journalism.
Kevin Clark is a journalist.
Okay, so he's allowed to just blatantly cheerlead
Excuse
for
me. Do
Miami.
you not watch Mike Greenberg giving speeches to Northwestern football, or Mike Wilbon giving
Yeah.
speets to Northwestern football,
Yeah, I
or
mean,
J.A.
yeah.
Adonde giving speeches to Northwestern football?
Okay, it's one thing though for Wilbon to be a Chicagoan who's a Bulls fan. Okay, I grew up a Dolphins fan, but today in my journalism clothes, I don't cheerlead the Dolphins. I try to be fair.
You're a homer.
Whoa, come
No,
on! I think it's part of what's baked in as a local columnist. You're supposed to give an impartial view, but
fair view.
But you do kind of. It's all through the prism of like we're in this together. We're rooting for this. When FAU makes it to the Final Four, people know that you have a relationship with that school. You wear it. I think school ties, even though Stephen A. Smith is the biggest Knicks fan on television. When it comes to university pride, like that stuff has long since been accepted. Like we understand this bias.
It hasn't. There is a lot of journalists that I've worked with that would tell you that that's not true at all. And if you have any sort of allegiance to your alma mater anywhere, like that's super unprofessional. And I don't necessarily disagree, but I think there's context for it. Like if you're someone hosting a entertainment show, that's different than if you're writing an investigative piece or if you're working in a market where you're supposed to have impartiality. Then that's not what a lot of our jobs are anymore. I think that's really how sports media has changed a lot in the last 10 years. And now if you're following a reporter, you probably follow them on social media. You might know more about them than you did 20, 30 years ago. And it's harder to hide when you do have those biases. So personally, I think that it's better to just wear it because, your audience knows a lot about you now. And there are very few jobs left where you can be just someone who writes for a living and is not part of social media and is not someone that becomes a public figure. And I think that that's really a huge flaw in media now. But unfortunately, that's kind of where we are.
I feel like I have the exact crossroads for you on where all of these things intersected because Tony Kornheiser and Mike Wilbon were doing print journalism on television for several years, but it became clear that as they did shows every day, Wilbon's in love with Michael Jordan, and Wilbon's just in the tank for all things Chicago. And then I think it all came crumbling down when Wilbon went to throw out the first pitch in a Cubs jersey with the jersey tucked into his jeans. And we all said that's where journalism died right there. The local sports columnist went national, became an entertainer, is singing Take Me Out to the Ball Game. And next thing you know, I'm banging on a drum in a Panthers game because all these guys did was lead.
I'd also say opinion columnists are sort of a separate category. Greg, people read your column because they want to hear your opinion, and your opinion is informed by your feelings about the Dolphins that you can't really separate from the reporting that you do before you write your column. So I think that there's a little bit of a different situation there for opinion columnists.
I agree with you, and to Mike's point, what he said earlier, I don't think I cheerlead any team. I don't think I'm a homer for the Dolphins or any team, but I root for my community. I write for readers, not for teams. Is it better for me? Is it better for business? Do my columns read more when I'm writing about a great team on a great run? Yes. Okay, would I mind the Panthers being back in the Stanley Cup final? Hell no. And a lot of it segues into performance art as well, particularly on my podcast and on this show. When I write and then make a whole big point of McDavid is overrated, okay? Am I for real? Am I serious about that, or am I just joking? Is that performance art? I like the idea that people aren't quite sure. Okay, now, me saying McDavid is overrated in the middle of all that probably came off as me being a Panthers homer. I live with that. I'm not banging a drum at a game.
That's just a side effect,
It
though.
probably did. Yeah.
It's a side effect. That doesn't mean that's what it is.
Yeah. Right.
You really enjoyed that attention, though. Like,
Sure.
as it's nice to dance along the nobility of journalism, and every once in a while you stick your beak in the final and just say McDavid's overrated,
Right.
and make yourself the center of the story, which isn't exactly journalism.
Well, it's not all about nobility, though. It's about fun, too, especially with me, more than, I dare say, most columnists. Yes.
Really? You're the most fun. Put it on the poll at Le Batard Show. Is Greg Cody the most fun of the columnists?
On second thought, you should have tucked in your shirt. Like the jersey when you did the banging of the drum, you should have tucked it in.
You can't do that with a hockey jersey.
No, but
To show respect for
but as a
Wilbon.
nod-
Exactly.
As a nod
Homage.
to Wilbon.
Get out of here.
Yeah. I want to track back to something that Jess said because it's such a bygone era here in the United States. But I was wrong. Like, there are impartial journalists. Like, I know Bruce Feldman went to Miami, but you can't tell really from his reporting all that much. I mean, he might have an inside scoop on Cristobal here and there, but it is disguised at the top line. But also, this is very American. when I think to following European football journalists or even like studio personalities, the player analysts, you understand that they have a pledge to their badge because of who they played for. But the impartial analyst, you have to do some serious digging to find out which clubs they support. And I actually appreciate that. And we have kind of lost our way here.
I would say it's sort of like outlet to outlet, though. Like the New York Times has a really strict policy on any of the reporters commenting on politics, and the Washington Post is similar in that way. And that's different than The Athletic. It's different, obviously, than ESPN for certain people. I think for some of their reporters, they probably do have some sort of policy in place where they don't want them to share what they like, what they root for, anything like that. They want them just to do like basic reporting. But I think the best of both worlds for us is like if you can be entertaining while also have a little bit of a reporting thread, or at least not spread misinformation. And that's obviously a hard needle to thread, because the more serious reporting you want to do, sometimes the less fun it is. But I think you kind of are trying to strike a balance, and I think our show at least tries to do that.
Well, let's see if we can navigate it in this particular thicket that I head into with David Sampson of Nothing Personal. David Sampson, as I've told you on his podcast, tackles a lot of stuff a lot of other people won't. And so I imagine there's a bit of a difference right now between how Shannon Sharpe is being covered in the mainstream media and how it is that the internet discusses him now. As David, as we talk about journalism, this is what you had happen yesterday that I was watching. I was like, whoa, all right, that's different. So McAfee's got his own thing that he rents to ESPN, and that's a wrestling show. And now a wrestling character is talking about the Shannon Sharpe lawsuit on ESPN's airwaves, but Pat McAfee has his thing. Stephen A. Smith has his thing and spends his entire show away from ESPN saying, this is a podcast I own and operate. And he's talking about all the things related to Shannon Sharpe that he can discuss, while in the unusual thicket, David, where I'm reading Disney getting headlines and no comments around 19-year-old woman allegedly mad because of an Instagram Live that was Shannon Sharpe having sex loudly with another woman. All of this in Disney's thicket. And you've got McAfee's got his own show, Stephen A. Smith has his own show, and Shannon Sharpe is on Instagram, not talking about it on ESPN, now outing and doxing an accuser, and there's a big public fight in which a lawyer for Shannon Sharpe is saying that the woman turned down a $10 million settlement. This story is a mess. We should be waiting for facts. There's more time for it to unspool. But what do you make of what you've seen so far?
Well, first we have to talk about what a settlement means, just because it's been so unclear, where people assume when you make a settlement offer, that means that you're automatically guilty or that you've done the underlying action. Actually, it's a math equation, believe it or not. When you have a lawsuit that is pending, you speak to your lawyers and they talk to you about the probability. So if he's being sued for $50 million, stay with me here, Dan, and the lawyer says, Shannon, there's a 10% chance of this happening, of the victory against you, of you losing. 10% of 50 million is $5 million. That means the value of the lawsuit is $5 million. But the legal fees are going to be $8 million, no matter what. If you have no liability or if you're found liable for $50 million, you're going to pay me $8 million. That's a total of $13 million. That's when you go to the other side and you say, I'll give you 10. That doesn't mean I did it. Doesn't mean I didn't do it. It's called a nuisance settlement amount, and it's discovered through a simple math equation based on probability. And that's all it does. So when the 10 million was offered, now people go crazy. Oh my God, how can you be so stupid as to say you didn't do it and then offer 10? That's how.
Take us through the most interesting parts of this, understanding that it's a civil suit and understanding that there were strategic leaks over the weekend in order to try. And people were prepared for whatever this weekend brought.
So when you have a lawsuit or you're negotiating a contract. You absolutely, whether it's with a player, whether you're buying another business, in the business world, there's all sorts of publications that we don't focus on in sports media. There's business publications, there's industry publications where leaks happen all the time, and they're done to further your position in a negotiation. It is no shock that Shannon Sharpe has out there that there is a $100 million offer for his show, that there are multiple $100 million offers for his show. That doesn't mean they exist. We've seen that in the sports world where agents say, oh, we've got 5 teams interested in my player at 25 million, and you know there aren't even 2 teams. But you feel like you're in the dark, so you may make a bigger offer. What Sharpe is doing with his show is smart, trying to maximize value by leaking out there that there could be 9-figure offers, multiple.
David,
Then all of a sudden, sorry, go ahead.
David, if I'm in a courtroom and I take the Fifth Amendment, I'm not incriminating myself, yet the public perception would be, what is he hiding? Why doesn't he want to answer? In this case, would you agree that Shannon Sharpe, if it's true, offering a $10 million settlement from a public relations standpoint sort of makes you think...
Did you not hear what he just said, though? Did you?
I understand, but we're talking about public perception now.
Well, but no, David, I guess I don't know that he wasn't necessarily listening.
I was listening.
Okay,
I was listening.
Okay, but he's just talking about he's coming into this position. What Greg is saying to you is, I've arrived at the position that $10 million means you're guilty. You explained everything you did, and he's like, yeah, and $10 million still makes me feel like you're guilty.
I understand that when a lawyer is telling me that, and when a former club president is telling me that. What I'm asking you is, from a public perception standpoint, does that serve Shannon Sharpe to have it out there?
And I understand his question in this regard, David. They've decided to make a mud fight out of this. And if all of this gets this kind of dirty, it's the kind of thing you're exactly trying to avoid when everybody is fighting over money.
Not anymore, though, I don't think. And
Exactly.
I'm curious to hear David's thoughts on this. It seems as though media personalities, especially in sports, have taken their hint from politics and how they just power through. Steve Smith, his name is in the news cycle for 2 days, and he moves on. He persists. Shannon Sharpe has learned that, especially when it comes to Busby, this is the exact same. Busby sued Jay-Z, and he is going about it the exact same way that Jay-Z and his camp did, and that was very effective for Jay-Z. So, David, I'm curious your thoughts on this bit of sea change. We're dealing with a societal shift when it comes to moralities applied to these things. The punishment that people get just for allegations is also shifted because Shannon Sharpe, back in the day, he'd be pulled from television for 5 days even if they didn't do anything at the very least, and that's kind of changed. They're affording him the opportunity to defend himself. It's a bit different these days.
Well, what's interesting to me is whether or not ESPN was involved in the decision to allow Shannon Sharpe to make the statements he made, because you tell your client, it's the number one rule, be quiet. Anything you say is not going to help you. But now with social media, the shift is, it doesn't impact a jury. It doesn't impact what an award would be, but it impacts your ability to monetize your platform. What Shannon Sharpe decided with his lawyer is that the mud fight and the publicity on your show, Dan, on Steven's show, on McAfee's show, everybody's talking about him. And the equation was, we are not getting lower offers for my Club Shay Shay and all the stuff that I do as a free agent just because I'm involved in this mud fight. As a matter of fact, what I'm learning is I'm getting more offers and more money. The more outrageous things are. That's what bothers me about this, is that the moral center that used to exist for what Mike just described as the 5-day rule, which is if anything you are accused of, a network would pull you. It would be called administrative leave, paid leave, you can call it, but you would not be on the air, and therefore you'd be silenced because there was no social media. There'd be no way to get your point across. Now, companies have been neutered because employees have the ability to reach more people almost on their own. So Shannon Sharpe has this strategy. Will it work? The only way we'll know is with his free agent signing as a podcast. It's not about the settlement with this woman or Tony Busby or any of it. It's what happens to his show. And if his show becomes less valuable, then you know that they made the wrong decision in terms of PR.
But David, you're watching this play out, right? We're all seeing the same thing. If the numbers are reported at 100 million for Shannon Sharpe, you're looking at McAfee, Shannon Sharpe, and Stephen A. Smith are all worth the same thing. They are all getting the same contract, and they all have their side gigs. And so Stephen A. yesterday is in the weird position of, it felt like to me, David, I don't know if you heard what he was doing on his own show. He's in the unusual position as he's considering a presidential run while building his own thing. And it felt to me like he wouldn't want Shannon Sharpe to be back on the air, but we're playing a totally different game now where McAfee, Stephen A., and Shannon Sharpe all have the same amount of money and power.
Well, you also have to just think about who's president now and what platform that Trump used to become president. And you think if Stephen A. Smith is going to run for president, he was very measured in his 20 minutes on his show. He actually said, I don't know anything. I brought Shannon to ESPN. I attempted. He's my partner. He's my friend. And I want to believe him because I want it to not be true, but I just don't know. But by the way, he did a read for Prize Picks before the show. He then did an entire conversation about how he has ESPN bosses, how while it's his own show, the podcast, he's got other employers. So he was very measured because you don't want to be on the wrong side of this, no matter whether it's your friend or not, having nothing to do with being president. As a matter of fact, you have a better chance to become president than monetizing your podcast if you're on the wrong side of an issue like this one.
And in the middle of it, right, just powering through, oh, my God, I don't know what's true there, where a woman just got strategically outed yesterday by name, right? And so that's where this gets super dirty, wherever it is that Shannon Sharpe can frame here as a victim.
Yeah, I'm not a journalist, but I thought that there was a rule that everyone followed, that you did not disclose the name of a victim of a sexual assault. I just assumed that rule was still in place. And you do file under Jane Doe in order to, that's very common. It's common both criminally and civilly in order to protect the name of the person involved, the victim. But in this case, what Shannon Sharpe did, you have every right to name a person. You have every right to defend yourself in any court of law, any legal action. That's an interesting choice, though, because more so than the $10 million settlement offer, I found the choice to name the name the more suspect choice.
Well, David,
I don't think it was necessary.
David, well, wait a minute. So now it gets dirtier and dirtier and more shameless. And, Mary Kate Cornett is suing Pat McAfee, allegedly, because you can't just be on these airwaves ruining lives, David. There has to be a standard, right?
Well, there is, Dan. There are laws about that. There's libel, there's slander, there's defamation, there's absolute protection. And when you are a public figure, you give up many of those protections. And that is well established by the Supreme Court. You, Dan, people can say anything they want about every one of us on this show, actually. And there is nothing that we can do about that.
Any other takes that you can find helpful here while trying to navigate we don't know what the facts on some of these things are, but we know that things are loud, explosive, and going to get messy before we even get to the facts.
Yeah, the biggest thing that I'm thinking about is Disney. And, you heard Bob Iger at the World Congress of Sport talking about the DTC, the direct-to-consumer that they're going to have with ESPN. Jimmy Pitaro was talking about it. They have a lot of eggs in that basket. We don't know what the name of it yet is, but what we do know is that it is so critical for Disney, for the Disney company, and for its share price is to make this ESPN new platform successful. It is so critical whether there is any shine that gets tarnished by any of the people in that orbit. And that becomes a big deal in the boardroom because in the Disney boardroom, they don't much care. And I know you don't understand or believe this, actually, not understand it. Of course you do. They don't really focus on, oh, wow, McAfee's famous, Le Batard's famous, and so is Stephen A. and Shannon Sharpe. They're great voices. In the boardroom, they're focused on far different and bigger issues. and they're not going to let anything get in the way of a company being profitable and growing. And so Shannon just has to be careful here, although I could argue that everyone should always be careful in every regard, but often they're not.
What would you have been advising Shannon Sharp around the idea that First Take and Disney isn't going to want any of this around them? There's going to want to be some sort of separation, even if we're doing innocent till proven guilty. So how do you?
Well, it's not criminal. You're the second person in the media who said that.
No, fair point. Yes,
Just
it's a civil.
keep in mind.
Yeah, my bad.
So that threshold is different. It's not even beyond a reasonable doubt. That's all criminal, and this is not a criminal case. So, and this is not me defending Shannon or not. It's not about that. I'm just trying to give you the facts. And I just what concerns me most about what Shannon did, and forget the action that he's accused of, which we don't know. We don't know the facts. The reason why we should all be quiet about this issue is that we don't know. And we're in the world of speculation. That's what we do in sports media and in business. But it would be far more interesting to speculate on things happening with sports teams and the business of sports than when it involves a person and a violent sexual act. I don't want to be in the business of speculating about that on either side because it's not appropriate. I'd much rather speculate why everyone's going to watch the draft instead of a Marlins game.
All right, then let's move on to other sports subject. The Paul Skeens bobblehead situation. Can you explain to me how that could have gone worse?
Oh, this is a great story. Paul Skeens, I didn't get one of these bobbleheads for you guys. Paul Skeens is the best pitcher in baseball in theory, the face of baseball, and the Pirates, who have had a bunch of missteps this season in the organization, they did a bobblehead night, but they didn't do a bobblehead for everybody. So unlike Ohtani with the Dodgers, where everyone got a bobblehead and still they waited online for 4 hours, in Pittsburgh, they really did wait online for multiple hours because they didn't know whether they'd get one. And then the Pirates announced, by the way, just kidding, everyone can get one. And I was laughing about this because when we do a bobblehead order, we don't have an extra 5,000 or 8,000 bobbleheads sitting around. We get an extra pallet to give to the player and to the employees and the staff. But did they just buy all those extra and they were going to sit on them? Why wouldn't they have announced from the beginning that they were doing 20,000 or 25,000? It's just such a great example. The Pirates are just stepping in it, and I feel for Cody. This all happened because of Cody, because it's his favorite hat, and he wears that pirate hat all the time, and I just feel like you can't wear it anymore, Chris.
Fair. I'll retire it.
You need to.
Thoughts on Aaron Rodgers' Jets exit?
Is he joking? You're telling me I've done a lot of bad stuff as a president. I never had a player fly in. I always fly to them. I flew to Pittsburgh to fire a guy. I went to a guy's house. I went to a guy's parking lot, to the airport once. You're telling me that Aaron Rodgers got on a private plane, flew to New York, and Aaron Glenn said in the first 5 seconds, "We're not bringing you back as quarterback"? Give me a break. I'm not buying it for 1 second what Aaron Rodgers is selling about Aaron Glenn. He just sounds like a bitter, washed-up quarterback.
So why is he doing that?
I think he's trying to elicit sympathy because people said, "Wow, I can't believe you had to spend money to go get fired." It's actually silly to me. Aaron Rodgers knew before that meeting, and he was there, my guess is, begging for an option because he wanted the option. It's actually a money difference for him, and it's just he's pretending that he hasn't made a decision. All of it is just straight poppycock to me.
Aaron complained a lot about the leaks inside that organization. I guess credit to the Jets for letting Aaron shape this narrative and just like close the book on him. We're done. We're not going to be in the business of leaking stuff out about Aaron, even though David just articulated something that I hadn't considered, which is, yeah, Aaron could also be lying. There's that. The story couldn't be like fully on the up and up. And I guess we should probably all scrutinize what Aaron Rodgers says a little bit more.
I thought we scrutinized everything he says. Can you imagine how the phone call, "Hey, Aaron, do me a favor and fly to meet me in my office in Florida." Well, what's it about? No, I want to talk about next year's plan. All right, I'll be there. And then 2 seconds in, by the way, you're fired. There's no way the Jets did that. And if it turns out to be true, I would fire Aaron Glenn right now.
Okay. That's what I wanted to ask, because if Aaron is telling the truth here, my whole thing was, look, they didn't draw this out. They told you to your face. He brought in the general manager. We're not going to bring you back. That's a direct conversation. That might seem foreign considering how long Aaron Rodgers likes to stretch things out. But I thought that was actually respectful of his time. You're saying that if Aaron Rodgers and his story about Aaron Glenn is true, that is actually worthy of the criticism that Aaron Rodgers is directing their way.
If it's true, yes. If they were going to get rid of him, and if I'm Aaron Glenn, I'm flying to him in California. That would be the way to show Aaron Rodgers respect and to have this beyond reproach, is just to fly to California, go to his house, because then you can fire him in 2 seconds, tell him he's not coming back, and you're good. You can even have him at a lunch, and you do it at the beginning and say, hey, if you want to stay for the Greek salad, be my guest, or you can just go home. But you don't make him fly across country.
All right, we've got to go, David, because Stan Van Gundy has arrived. Just give me the coldest firing. Where'd you have to go? Did you say a parking lot? The coldest firing where you had to go somewhere and just like ransack someone on the way to their car.
Well, that is a bad one, but no, I flew to Pittsburgh, but I didn't have time to go to the guy's house, so I made him come to the airport, and I went out of security, fired him, and then went back through security to fly back to Florida.
All right, excellent work by you, Samson. You're you're ruthless. Look at Stan Van Gundy, just mortified by you. No, Stan wants to be rid of you. Get out of here. You are just a cold corporate demon. You love he takes pride in telling that story. I ran through security, fired the guy, and ran out.
Smiled the whole time.
Moth.
Well, I flew to see him, though. I didn't make him fly to me.
Get
Stan.
out of here. Get out of here. No. he just loves why does he love telling stories? look at Tony. Welcome, Tony.
Thank you, Dan. Hola.
You're disgusted by David Sampson.
No, I'm never. The thing is, like, I continually hear these stories of how David has done terrible things to people, right? But then he one-ups it every single time where I'm like, I didn't know he just went. Like, he literally, you know, the meme, I don't know I think it's a Family Guy where he comes in, puts his hat on the little rack. Is it Simpsons? Comes in, puts his hat on the rack, comes back out, and just goes back. Like, that's David Sampson in the security line of the airport. Hey, by the way, buddy, you're fired. See ya. And just keeps going. It's like diabolical.
Stan, it's nice to see you. We've got Magic at Celtics tonight. Mike Ryan was just talking about Aaron Rodgers. Mike Ryan has read the audiobook. Stan, I need a ruling from you. If you've listened to the audiobook, have you read the book? I believe that is
I'm sorry, Dan, I lost you there for a second. What book are we talking about?
The question is, if you have listened to an audio book, have you read the book?
I have lost you again.
All right.
We'll take that as a yes.
We will.
I'll take that as a no.
Big
I'll take that as a
old
maybe.
yes in all caps.
Did he plead the fifth there? What
Okay,
happened?
look, David Sampson is back heroically. David back. I
also
thought we
putting
got
David down
rid
as a
of you.
yes.
Why are you taking so much pride? Why are you taking pride in firing people?
No, I'm taking pride in being a team player because I saw Stan Van Gundy like this.
Yeah.
And so I thought there was a chance that you were going to need a bailout. And so I stayed on the Zoom thinking that you may have to come back to me.
Wow.
You're welcome.
Yes, no, heroically. There's David Sampson to save us while he's ruthlessly cutting and gutting our company. Yes, because what second place to I ran through security to fire somebody? What finishes second to that?
Chasing a guy through a parking lot. Go ask a former pitching coach named Brad Arnsberg how he got fired. It's a great story. It was running. It was insane. I don't know if you remember that name. It's a name from a long time
No,
ago.
I do remember. It was like, I remember you. There was a tow truck. Wasn't there, like, you were climbing around a staircase in an apartment complex. There was video of you guys, like, chasing him to a second floor apartment. Wasn't there?
I don't think that video exists, but I will cede my time to SVG, who has far more important things to talk about than me climbing through parking lots like Tom Cruise.
All right, just stay to the side there. We'll see if we can get Stan Van Gundy's technology right. He's got Magic at Celtics is at 7 o'clock tonight on TNT. It's followed by Game 2 of Warriors at Rockets. And the question I was asking, Stan, is if Mike Ryan has heard an audiobook about Aaron Rodgers, has he read a book about Aaron Rodgers?
I would say yes. That counts.
Congratulations.
I just feel good about
yes
that.
already.
All right,
I
we
feel
got the
good
yes.
with that.
Great.
I was
Finally, it was worth
Yeah.
it.
I was a little scared when you
Yes,
prefaced it by
yes.
Mike Ryan first because
Yes.
that's all sorts of coded. People have already made up their minds
I'm
at
glad
that
we
point.
got our tremendous
Yeah.
payoff.
How can you say you read a book when what you did was hear a book?
Because how do I say I heard a book and not get looked at weird? So now I say I read a book with my ears. So what of
I
it,
heard a
man?
book.
I read. I paid some money. I contributed to the hard work that this person did, and I consumed their art
Okay.
with my
You
ears.
get half credit for reading a book. Not full
I think
credit.
if you retain the information in the book, it counts.
right.
Yeah, sorry.
I mean, people make art
It's
for
the
other
word
people.
read
Well,
that
it's
I'm
a-
stumbling on.
I mean,
You
well,
haven't read a book if you haven't read a
break
book.
down these societal norms, my friend. I don't know what to tell you. Media's changed. So have books.
Okay. All right.
We lost Stan again.
Why are you
David's
back?
back.
Why are you?
David came back to fire Stan
wait
Van
for Dan
Gundy
to-
from retirement.
Can't wait for Dan to do the whole promo again. We got Magic at Celtics.
Why?
Ask him the audiobook question again.
I will in a second, but I want to focus my attention here. Greg Cody is saying correctly. He is saying, how have you read a book if you haven't read a book?
That seems
It's
logical.
it's quite a riddle he's throwing in your face. The verb is to read.
Yes. Thank you.
Game 2, Celtics. What do you got, Dan?
Tonight's Magic at Celtics game beginning at 7 p.m. Eastern on TNT, followed by Game 2 of the Warriors at the Rockets. Stan Van Gundy, one of the famed Van Gundy brothers,
And he's gone.
is gone again. All right, you know what we're going to do? We're going to go ahead and stop for a second and start over is what we're going to do as a team. And we're going to see.
Start over.
I've got a movie question.
We're going to see if
You got to
Stan,
do Eddie Vedder again?
we're going to see if Stan Van Gundy, do you guys think you're going to try this like 6 or 7 times before we get it right? Or just going to keep doing it to me? Yeah?
Live live. I mean, this is going pretty well, I think.
Okay. David, stay with us. The climbing the scaffolding, chasing a pitching coach. Who was it? It was you and who else? It was you and one of your minions. Was it a PR guy?
No, it was Larry Beinfest. Oh, sorry.
Oh, so it was you and your general
you
manager.
said he's back.
The president and the general manager were chasing through a parking lot a pitching coach to fire him. Correct?
Yes.
There was video. It was on the news. I remember this. It was scandalous because was it on the second floor or the third floor? It was outside his apartment. Was he shirtless? He was shirtless. He was shirtless.
Stan, you got us? Hello.
How can there be video of that on like Will's
This
100-point
can't
game?
be what Stan is doing. I love Stan.
Looks like he's
Tonight
asleep
we've got
over there.
the Magic.
Tonight's Magic at Celtics game beginning at 7 p.m. Eastern on TNT, followed by Game 2 of the Warriors at the Rockets. Stan, are you with us? If you can hear me, I'm sorry.
When you listen to an audiobook, Stan, is it true that you can say you've read it?
I think he's frozen again.
I see him blinking, though.
Technology, am I right?
He just looks confused.
Maybe he's messing with us.
He just doesn't like us.
Stan, blink a few times if you're being held hostage.
I got you.
All right.
Yeah, we did it.
Can you hold up today's newspaper with the date on it?
Who has newspapers anymore?
I listened to the newspaper.
He's a professional broadcaster. The Van Gundy family, they're broadcasters. They know how to do audio things. Stan, it's good to see you. Tonight's Magic at Celtics game beginning at 7 p.m. Eastern on TNT, followed by Game 2 of the Warriors at the Rockets. Stan, can you hear me?
I got you.
Yes.
Can you read him?
The question from Greg Cody is, have you read a book? How have you read a book if you have not read a book?
No, I think audio books count. A lot of people do it that way now, you know.
That's not reading, though.
No, shouldn't you say I heard a book or I listened to a book. It's the word read
You guys are
that
having
you
a
stumble on.
really difficult time, coming to grasp with the fact that I'm the most well-read person in this studio.
Well
Hang on a
heard,
second,
well
buddy.
Heard, well heard.
I'm sorry. I'm reading 3 books a week now. My ears are tired from all this reading.
I'm reading Robert Caro's The Power Broker right now.
I'm on abundance.
Oh, yeah. Is that 1,300 pages about highways and parkways in Long Island? I don't think so.
It's actually about highways and parkways in California.
Well, New York's better.
I'm reading one of those books where you have to go cross-eyed to look at the picture in the thing, like the old school, you have to pull it away slowly. Oh, look, there's a car in there.
I'm reading The Pride of a Lion for the 45th
Oh, for
time.
the love of God. Stan, are you reading anything these days?
He's gone.
I think this time he just left.
Are you kidding? Stan Van Frozen.
So,
What?
David, what is the bronze medalist on coldest firings you've ever fired? That's right.
I
ladies.
really
Hold on.
had it-
Hold on. Yes, that's right, Chris. Stan Van Frozen is
I
what.
mean, that
is
is
that's
Greg's
the
bitten.
That was a great call.
Could have gone Stan Van
SVF.
Gandhi, but he went.
Stan
Stan
Van
Van Frozen.
Frozen. The bronze medalist of coldest firings in the history of David Sampson's firings. Blank?
Called Felipe Alou into my office, and he dropped his season tickets and his parking pass and his ID badge before I could say a word. And I fired his tushy because he dropped the stuff and then walked out of my office because he knew that's what he was doing. Stan! And so that's the only person who I've ever fired his backside.
Excellent. Stan, how do you feel about David Sampson?
Love you, Stan.
He's muted.
He's muted now. You guys got it.
All right, I think I'm going to make the call.
You have got,
Okay, look.
there it is.
Now look, I like David. I like David, but I've been on the other side of more firings than I have fired people. So I look at it from the side of the people being fired, and it's not a pleasant experience. I remember I went to Daryl Morey's thing, that Sloan conference in Boston one year, and I was on this panel, and a hockey GM was on there talking about, what a rough day it was for him when he had to fire his coach and the whole thing. Like this was some big sympathetic thing for him. This guy had been his friend and he had to fire him. And then it came to my turn. I said, well, I'll guarantee you it was a hell of a lot harder for the guy you fired than you. Like, I just don't have a lot of sympathy for you talking about how hard it was to fire the guy and the whole thing. Maybe it was, but the other guy's the one who lost his job. I also like David. Here's what I really love, though. 2 things that I really, really love when front office people fire somebody. Number one, to justify their decision, and they go in a press conference and absolutely kill the guy on the way out, like with a bunch of BS, and I hate that stuff. And the other one is they get on there and they say, they fired a guy and then they say, hey, the team hasn't played well. We're all accountable. Why? What the hell do you mean we're all accountable? Who else lost their job? Everybody else picking up a paycheck tomorrow. No, you're not all accountable. You threw it on one guy. So cut the crap with we're all accountable. We all have to take accountability. You didn't do it that way.
Yeah.
Stan, 2 things for you. One, it's worse when they say I wish his family the best. I love his family. I don't like that. I've never done that in a press conference or a press release. But 2, you say no paycheck, but there's a bunch of head coaches out there who make a lot of money not to coach. And so I agree with you if they're being fired as their contract is expiring. But often you have an opportunity to make money, not to have the service of working with some of those owners and GMs.
Well, look, I understand. What people don't understand, Dan and I have talked about this before. I think what too many people don't understand, I can only talk about the NBA, the way things work. But what they don't understand, like fans always want coaches fired. I get that. And there's no sympathy. And I never thought I deserved any as a head coach, because what you're saying is true. I always had money coming in, and we make a lot of money anyway. But what people miss is there's a lot of people under you who are not making great money, who do not have long-term contracts. There's guys I had in my organization in Detroit, I had guys making $65,000, $75,000 with families and things like that. And in a regime change, they're out the door. So when people can take joy in a head coach being fired, what they don't understand is, but a lot of people just lost their jobs that need those jobs, just like you do need your job as a fan. And I just wish
it's
people
true, but
understood that more.
Stan, there's another side to that, which is in a regime change, there's a whole bunch of people getting jobs who didn't have them. And so it's an opportunity for those people. I totally understand that there is a lot of shrapnel that happens when a coach or GM gets fired or when an owner changes. There's no doubt. But there's a whole group of people who have an opportunity who otherwise wouldn't have. Yeah,
there's no question. I mean, that's the business. I mean, and, I try to tell young people when they get into it, look, you have to understand what the business is. And you have to understand the insecurity of it. I mean, that's the way it's going to be at every level. You might have a little more security the further down the food chain you are, but not a whole lot. And so, look, I don't expect sympathy from anybody. Coach is getting fired. Anything else? I do react negatively to the glee that a lot of fans take when somebody gets fired, because I don't care how much money you got coming in. Mike Budenholzer gets fired in 1 year. He's got $40 million coming in. And you know what? It hurts. I don't care. I've been through it enough. I can tell you, Mike Budenholzer and his staff, it hurts.
But
I don't care how much money you make.
But it does hurt slightly less. Tony, everyone listening to this
it
is
hurts
saying
slightly less when you can go and hang out in the Keys for a couple of years and fish and do your own thing.
Yeah, you know what? No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. I'm sorry. I've been there 4 times. It doesn't.
To the Keys.
You're better off. I get that. I get that. You're better off. But when somebody tells you, we don't want you anymore, you're not good enough, we're better off with somebody else, you can't tell me. I don't care who it is. There's nobody that does not sting. I mean, yes, it's easier to move on. I'll give you that. But it still stings. With that said, I have said about the Phoenix job, and David's right. They're paying Frank Vogel and Mike Budenholzer probably a combined about $20 million next year to not coach. I said that's the most attractive coaching job on the market. I mean, you're going to sign 5 years, $50 million, and you're probably only going to coach 1 year. Matt Ishbia is going to get rid of you. So, if you're somebody especially who wants a short-term job for a whole hell of a lot of money, Phoenix is your destination in the NBA.
Stan, I have a question for you because it might couch this segment a little bit better. Have you, maybe even before you got into coaching, were you ever fired from a job where you weren't given millions of dollars in compensation?
Well, when I got fired at the University of Wisconsin, I didn't get anywhere near millions of dollars in compensation. I got
adjusted for inflation, though. You got something.
Well, I mean, okay. So now you're saying, Stan, you were old at the. You're old.
Oh, I'm saying
and that happened a long time ago. I got you, Mike. Okay, a little subtle.
No, he's gonna He's about to trap you here on which hurt more and which hurt less.
I'm just saying, I don't know if you have the data points to be fired without a huge compensation package.
I'm saying it is definitely easier to move on because you don't then have the concerns about, being able to support your family and everything else. It's definitely that part's out.
Yeah,
but
that part is like the whole part.
It's a
for
huge
me.
concern.
It's
not well.
concern.
Part.
You know what?
How do I eat?
It's a big part.
You think it's the whole part to you until it happens. And let's not forget, for these guys getting fired, it's not happening like most people getting fired where nobody knows about it. These are very public things. It's out in the newspaper, and there's going to be all kinds of commentary. Why did Michael Malone get fired? Why did Taylor Jenkins get fired? People ripping apart, their coaching, their character, everything else. Yeah, I've been there, so I can just speak from experience on that. I'm with you that it doesn't hurt as much in terms of you can support your family, but that shit hurts, man.
All right, so Stan,
You know what would hurt my ego? Losing a house.
Yeah, well, so I want to tether Stan and to something here because I know how much this man cares. So when he's rummaging around in the shame of having failed a bunch of people relying on him for their jobs, he's saying the money doesn't heal whatever guilt he feels when something like that happens. And I get that articulation. But I also understand how it is that anybody would arrive at, and Stan, the shame you talk about being fired publicly, that's what the money's for. Like, that's why they pay. They pay
2 Dom Draper lines.
That is what they pay you for.
No question.
But it is human.
Yeah,
it is
no question.
From inside it, it's sort of humanizing for you to say, and yeah, it hurts because I'm hugely competitive. And do you know how much it sucks that I couldn't save the Pelicans or the Pistons?
Yeah, no, there's no question. But look, you're right, and that's what I'm saying. Heck, I grew up around the business with a dad who coached. It's been my whole life. The business, and that is part of it, and that is one of the big reasons that coaches get compensated the way they do.
I don't trust his internet, Chris Cody. He keeps getting frozen.
We're cooking with gas.
It's
right
been
now.
a good segment.
I know.
Way to go, Dan.
I know. I agree. He seems frozen right now, and you would understand my mistrust. Surely, all of you would. I want to talk about the basketball from last night because the Lakers and the Timberwolves both shot 20% from 3, and now the Lakers story gets to continue because it would have been bad for playoff basketball if the Timberwolves had won that one as well. That wouldn't have been a lot of fun.
And he's gone.
Okay, that is excellent. It's just so good.
Needed to get to the back end of the doubleheader.
It's so good.
Isn't it funny how Oklahoma City's there? Like, we won 68 games and we have to play the Clippers or the Nuggets next? Like, what the hell?
First time watching them. Do they always win by 50?
Hey, what's up, Le Batard fans? It's Roz Goldenwood here with Good Follow Show. And this week, we are highlighting some potential breakout players in the WNBA upcoming season. We're also looking at some ripple effects from the WNBA draft. And we see what Trinity Rodman's injury might mean for the NWSL season. And stay with us because we're playing a game. We've decided to create our own WNBA all motion teams, which means who are the players in the offseason who have the most motion, visibility, bag securing, mogul talk, all the things. And we also have a great interview with our girl and friend to the show, Monique Billings of the Golden State Valkyries. So all this and more on the show. We drop every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern on DraftKings Network and YouTube and wherever else you get your podcasts. So we'd love to see you there. Thanks for rocking with us.
The pitch clock is back on Thursday, and we've got as much MLB expertise as you can get anywhere. Jake Mintz, Jordan Schusterman, the guys from Cespedes Family Barbecue, they will be here to play our trivia game. And then Adnan Virk is ready to talk about 2025 Major League Baseball. Will we be talking about the Gritty Tigers? Yes, of course we will. Will we be talking about the New York Mets? Yes, of course we will. Will we be talking about the 14 strikeout performance of Max Meyer and also the Swarovski crystals on Yandy Diaz's spikes? You know we will. This is the pitch clock. It's with you every Thursday here on the Dan Le Batard Show with Stugotz. Enjoy this week's episode. Watch it on YouTube. Listen to it where you get podcasts. You know the deal. Enjoy.
Are you tired of waiting on those 3 dots every time you text?
Hello, Casanova the Ghetto speaking. Hello? Still there?
Only to get ghosted when you're just trying to reach out? Well, we've got a man who loves a long phone call.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Not only that, he hobnobs with celebrities.
Not now, LeBron.
But he's always got time for you.
Yes, Sirski. Hello? What do you need, my friend? My friend? What do you need, my friend? Hot gossip. Do you want to talk life? Do you need some advice? You want to talk basketball? Relationship advice? Say it with your chest, or get it off of your chest.
You can get all that. All you need to do is call Juju now. Call Juju now at 650-585-8669, which spells Juju now. 650. Juju now. If you're in New Hampshire, call Juju now. In Minneapolis, call Juju now. On a plane, call Juju now. 650 Juju now. That's the number. Call now.
Call with your questions. Call with your takes. You want to phone a friend? Well, guess what? I can be that friend. Hello? Hello? What are you waiting for, man? What are you waiting for, woman? What are you waiting for, family dog? Call right now.
Tomorrow night, join Billy, Mikey A., Andrew Hawkins live from the DraftKings Sports and Social in Nashville, 128 2nd Avenue North. Live stream begins at 8 Eastern on the Le Batard YouTube channel, presented by Smirnoff. We do game days. Please drink responsibly. The Smirnoff Company, New York, New York.
Greg, just a question, may seem random to you. Who's more handsome, Andrew Hawkins or Method Man?
I had never considered that in my life. I'm going to abstain until I see a photo of both
Excellent
of them side
work
by side.
on your feet. That's why he's the tap dancer that he is, an improv artist, all known to all.
Which do you know what they look like less?
Actually, I did improv in my acting class and slayed, like everybody, Christopher will tell you.
You introduced Wu-Tang Clan via song in Las Vegas at Circa.
Yeah.
So you know what Method Man looks like.
Right. I don't know Walter.
Walter?
Yeah.
Walter, keep working this out.
Cronkite?
Talk it out. Yeah. Walter who?
No, what's his name? Walter Hawkins?
Andrew Hawkins.
That's exactly what his
I
name
don't
is.
know him. I'm sorry.
You're in the same stable. That's wow, that went poorly. I'm sorry.
Former Browns receiver.
Mogul?
No, don't know him.
Walter Hawkins.
No.
I'm going to ask him if he knows who you are.
He works with us.
Why would he?
He's because he's our teammate. He works.
He does shows.
Sorry, I can't know everybody.
He's right about that.
I mean, he's
right. He can't know everybody.
Can't know everybody.
Right.
Is this a revelation? You don't know what Andrew Hawkins looks like?
He has no idea what we're talking about.
Walter Hawkins.
He thinks
I thought you said Walter.
Andrew Hawkins is a former Browns receiver.
Okay, I don't cover
had
the
a nice
Cleveland
career.
Browns.
He's been doing shows with us for months.
Years.
Okay.
Years.
Yeah, he's been in this studio for years.
I doubt that, but I apologize to Andrew.
He has worked with us for years.
To be fair, not on a Greg Cody Tuesday or Wednesday.
Thank you.
Or Thursday.
I've
or
never
Monday.
I've never met him. I've never shared air with him. I now see him. He's a good-looking man.
Okay.
Finally, very well-trimmed beard.
Is he better looking than Method Man?
I wouldn't say that.
Oh, wow. So we're just 0 for 2 now.
Walter
they're both good
Hawkins.
I'm putting you down for meth.
Where are we on George Clooney? Where are we on Clooney?
There's an update. And this is a segment I like to call Mike Was Right. I love those. So,
do you want to do it as a victory lap?
No. Especially, do I have to? Don't make me.
I think you have
I don't want to. I don't want to pretend I'm running. George Clooney, who has a dye job, but is famously salt and pepper guy. Guy owns the gray look. Everyone here yesterday was having a go for him, not considering that, hey, George Clooney is doing this for a role. So here is him giving an interview to Gayle King, talking about the dye job in question.
I have to take a moment looking at you with the dark hair.
I know it's not good.
I didn't say it wasn't good.
Oh, it's not
but
good.
It's jarring to me. I wonder what it's like for you when you get up in the morning and you look. By now, I'm sure you're used to it. But
I'm not used to it. You never get used to it.
You don't?
Listen, I started getting gray.
It throws me a little bit.
So I've been gray most of my life. So it's not my favorite look. And my wife,
yes,
she doesn't. She thinks it's funny.
Does she?
Honestly, nothing makes you look older than being 63 and dyeing your hair.
It's genuinely bizarre to have somebody who's been a sex symbol for the last 30 years in this country be uncomfortable because people are able to mock him as not attractive.
I mean, where are we in life if everyone's having a go at George Clooney's appearance? Like, really? This guy could have perennially been sexiest man on the planet for several years running. He's a charming devil. Even look at how self-deprecating he is there. Even with, I might have just fallen in love with dyed hair George Clooney because I've long since been in love with Silver Fox George Clooney.
He looks like a museum piece. He looks like he's made of wax because of the hair.
He needs a little wispy mustache to go with it.
It's like when people do those viral stunts where they're like, we pretended to be homeless for a day to see how people. It's like George Clooney's pretending to be ugly, and now he's living his life as someone who's not hot, and it's wow. He's like, this is terrible.
It reminds me of my dad. Well, Bill Cody, when I was like a teenager and he was aging, he's in his 50s or whatever. He had really gray hair, okay? He was the kind of guy who it would be totally gray one day, and then you would see my dad the next day, and he would have shiny jet black hair.
That was my dad.
Your dad.
That was my father.
Your dad would like stun me with his eyebrows.
No, listen, my mother was mortified because Poppy, during his heyday leadership days, would go from straight gray to straight black from one day to the next every 6 months or so.
Yeah.
You can't do that. You can't go like night to day. You got to either stay on top of it or progress. Like, that's shocking. It's like, remember when Vince McMahon came out of hiding? It's like, whoa, why does he look like he's about to welcome you into a haunted mansion?
Yeah, my dad loved Grecian Formula was the name of the product. And the funniest part was that nobody would say anything. Like, he wouldn't explain his altered appearance.
No, it couldn't be
Nobody would
spoken.
mention it.
It couldn't be spoken.
What's buried? What is it with men of that generation? I've never seen my grandfather. He's, I think, 84. I've never seen him with a gray hair. So I think he's got natural black hair the entire time. I don't know.
This is
He went to the hospital, Dan.
Mike's father has a perfect head of hair that doesn't have a gray hair in it.
It's got some gray on the sideburns, but no, my dad is often accused of dyeing his hair, and I'd be all over that too. I've been trying to prove this one for a long time. No, not the case. Although lots of Botox.
The Latin man, though, there's something happening here with the Latin man. Greg can go from. I think your mom has probably been frustrated by a couple of times where your dad has let it go too gray and then sharply goes rust after that. That McMahon photo is always shocking. You cannot come out of hiding looking like that.
That seems natural.
It's the mustache.
You cannot come out of hiding looking like that.
I mean, Greg Williams did it too, though. Like, that may be the way to come out of hiding.
No, you can't come out of hiding innocent of crimes with all of that. It can't be
Thin
that.
mustache. That's the key.
It's been suggested on the internet that this thin mustache was put in place to cover up a botch of some sort. Because if you've seen him since, he's done away with the mustache, and he looks much better than he did now. Like, if you look around the lip, it is a little puffy. I think that this was a disguise to distract you from what was going on underneath.
Yeah, I see that. Lopsided mustache.
Stan Van Gundy apologizes profusely from a hotel in Houston. I told him he has nothing to apologize for. We have not had better segments than that recently. In the middle of it, though, because I'm trying to reach Stan Van Gundy and we've discombobulated him, I believe we just witnessed Stan Van Gundy's worst public out-of-touch moment in the history of out-of-touch moments.
I thought you were going to say that's what he apologized for when you started saying he apologized. I was like, oh, okay, I'm glad he thought about it for a few seconds and was like, yeah, that was crazy. It's much better to get fired with millions of dollars than what the vast majority of people get, which is a swift kick in the ass out the door.
If Samson had merely said what Stan Van Gundy was saying, he might not have been invited back.
Oh, please. Yes, he would.
Okay. Well, he said things similar, but even Samson texted me after.
He said way worse.
Samson texted me afterwards. He's like, I've never even thought that. That is so crazy. So we even asked him, have you ever been fired from a job where you haven't been paid millions of dollars? And he cited Wisconsin. And we did some research.
He apparently had 4 years left on a 5-year deal when he was fired from Wisconsin. However, all of the articles in the Trib are paywalled, and I can't find a exact number, but I'm assuming they paid out his contract. So maybe it wasn't millions, but...
Now, I don't want to be tone deaf to the shame that comes with being fired. Like, I've never had to deal with Shams tweeting out that I've been fired, and then people say, yet. Well, knock on wood. But... there's that where you get a nice little multi-million-dollar compensation package, or, the shame of your family leaving you and not being able to afford a roof over your head or heat in the winter, or we have to give up the dog because I can't pay for the dog's food anymore, or asking a friend for a ride for work, or explaining this gap in your resume when you're trying to get another job. I mean, there's no comparison.
Well, a couple of things. First of all, I thought Stan Van Gundy was calling to apologize for his take that reading a book when you haven't read a book is sort of weird. But in this case, you know what? I agree with everything Stan Van Gundy said. I think when you're fired, and luckily I've never been fired, I imagine that when you're fired, you don't go first to, well, at least I'm still making a lot of money. You go first to the ego blow and to the shame and to the embarrassment and maybe to the anger if you don't think you deserve to be
because
fired.
You don't have to. It doesn't have to be the first thing you think about, because if you're in one of these extremely lucrative jobs, it's probably not something you think about, and that's the luxury of being fired with one of these high-paying jobs.
I am going to have to make Stan Van Gundy, I'm going to make fun of him when I talk to him, because I do understand how everyone heard that the same way I did with, oh, poor Mike Budenholzer. Now he has to listen to us say he's not a good coach.
By the way, I was saying he wasn't a good coach when he won Coach of the Year.
He won 61 games in Atlanta, and I didn't believe he was a good coach. He won Giannis the only championship he's going to ever win him, and I don't believe he's a good coach.
Someone please fire me and tell me I'm a bad coach. I want to be a fired college football coach so bad. Tell me I suck. Write about me on the Reddit message boards. I don't care.
Bad last name for a coach.
It's a bad last name for a coach.
Yeah, you can't be a Budenholzer and expect to go through life's success.
All right, so
I think he's been pretty successful.
Put it on the poll at Le Batard Show. Can you be named Budenholzer and be successful? But I want to go back for a second, just quickly. Stan sounded out of touch as a competitionaholic who's saying it's such a great shame to be fired, to be told by everybody, ridiculed. You're bad at your job. You failed. You failed, you and your friends. But for him not to understand, I'm going to lose my pet. Mike Ryan concocted a scenario where someone has been fired and can no longer afford to have a pet.
Hold on. It's a Greg Cody Wednesday, so we have to clarify. You mean an animal, not a fart.
Yeah, that's a good point, Jess.
Jess, an excellent point.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Let a pet versus...
Right. No. So Mike Ryan said, I saw a story. I want to give you guys some numbers here. And
Louis Riddick's tying his beard.
Is that he is. Look at him. He looks like a Lothario.
I'm sorry, I broke into programming there.
You
but
did,
this
but I'm looking
I
at
had
him now.
to.
No, he is absolutely.
I need a spray bottle like you're an animal, and I just stop doing that.
Mike today is
Stop.
going to watch more ESPN than he's watched in a long time because Kevin Clark and Feinbaum are coming up here soon. But you guys have derailed me a little bit. What are you laughing about, Chris Cody?
The watch.
Louis Riddick is distracting.
Yeah, it derailed me too, man.
Roy?
Yeah. Distracting.
Can I underail you and get you back on the subject of NBA coaches? Because The Athletic put out they do this thing every year where they get a bunch of people to vote on like most overrated player, and it's like other NBA players voting on it. And one of the questions that they asked, there were 73 players that voted on this. It said, aside from your own current coach, who is the worst coach in the league? So I was reading all of the results to all of these questions last night to Lehman, and I got to this one, and I was like, I don't know who this person is. So they must be the worst coach because I've never heard of them. And I said their name to him, and he watches a ton of basketball, and he's like, I've never heard of this man in my life. But do you guys know who Brian Keefe is?
No, I don't know who Brian Keefe is. Does anybody?
No.
Who is Brian Keefe?
Apparently he's the head coach of the Wizards.
What? He must be really bad at that. He must be really bad at doing that. But when he loses his job, he's not going to be talking to his wife saying, I think we need to take our daughter out of ballet.
Actually, rich guy.
I want to run some numbers by you guys. As Mike Ryan, and thank you for the clarification, Jess, it is not a pet as in the Greg Cody household where they refer to farts as the letting of a pet. It's the actual loss of a pet, which is where Mike Ryan lost me and went a bridge too far. However, an article that I read, about a pill, and there are a lot of ethical questions around it. It's called Loyal. It can extend the life of your pets. And when they ran some numbers, I was surprised by a couple of things. First of all, 47% of American households have a dog. Stunned by that. I did not think it would be that high. At Le Batard Show, 47% under or over American households that have a dog.
That's a Wits and Wagers question. Have you guys ever played the board game Wits and Wagers?
I'm not even familiar.
Oh my God, it's so great, Dan. It's a game where there's like these questions, and it's every answer is a number. So it's like, what percentage of American families own a dog? What percentage of Americans have tattoos? What year was the Sistine Chapel painted? Like things like that, where it has to be an answer that's a number. And then you write down your guess on a little whiteboard, and you put it all in the middle. Everyone lines it up from smallest to biggest, and then you wager on whose number is closest. And once you get going, you get a lot of money in the bank, and you start wagering more and more. And you're like, I know what year the Mona Lisa was painted. I'm betting the house on this. But you can also put a fake number and try to get people off the scent. Because if my sister's playing with me and I'm like, she knows I know my art history, and whatever number I put down is going to be close, I'm going to put down a different number. Then we can play mind games with each other. Oh, it's the greatest game on earth. But this pet question was one of them.
47% sounds ridiculous.
It is ginormous. And the other thing that was in it, how much do you think a gallon of milk weighs? How much do you think it weighs?
Weighs?
I know.
Go ahead.
3 pounds.
Wrong. You would have lost. I would have
too.
wagered the over, and I would have won because it's like 8 pounds.
Really?
It's crazy. This game blows my mind consistently.
That's insane.
Anyways, that's a plug for my second favorite game behind Monopoly deal. So you're welcome,
But
everyone.
there are families that if you lose their job, that is one more mouth to feed. That service that feeds my dog is on auto pay. You know, you're going to look at every single itemized thing in your bill and look at where to cut. And some people will settle on, yeah, I can't have my dog anymore.
The other number that surprised me, and again, it's an ethical debate because the pill has not been FDA approved, but it is lengthening the lives of pets. And this particular pill, some of the testing that they've done, 76% of pet owners, 3/4 of pet owners would go into debt for their pet. What are you laughing about?
Just the rhyme. It was great.
Just the rhyme?
Yeah, and it would go in, and the rhythm you said it would go into debt for their pet.
Three-quarters of pet owners, and I'm assuming birds are in here too. I love animals.
Goldfish.
I love animals that way, but debt? Mike Ryan is concocting the scenario where you have to throw your pet in the street because you've been fired from your job.
No, you could either give it to someone else or take it to a pound. I'm sure they'll be fine.
I actually took that pill myself because I got a dog in me.
That dog.
Well, if you
I got
have
that
like
dog
a,
in me.
It would have been so good if you nailed it.
So
You have a dog in you?
The and at,
You
very
have-
important.
You have a dog inside of you.
Major penalty, 5 minutes, swooning comedy.
You could hear his confidence.
I heard in your ear them say,
Liar!
Stugotz's headphones are so loud, I
I know
could.
they are loud.
Yeah.
Where's the button to turn
He
them
was
down?
so unfamiliar with the term that he was like, that surely has to be in proper grammar.
He
So,
corrected the grammar just enough to ruin the joke.
I have a dog in me.
I have a dog presently inside of me. There is a dog that is fully inside me.
Get out of here.
They
yes.
found it when they did
Yes.
the
How do you
hernia
not know how
surgery.
penalties work? Yes.
Penalty box.
5 minutes. Oh, the
It's a
door.
pull door.
The
It's
door.
been a pull door forever.
Chris,
Do we have a replay of him trying to push that door?
I'll tell you what happened. Please get the replay,
It's
Chris.
no wonder he doesn't know who Andrew Hawkins is. He doesn't even know how to
Walter.
Walter.
He doesn't even know how to exit the studio.
I like that there's some like scenario in an alternate universe where like Roy and Jeremy have never worked on the same day and they've never heard of each other.
Jessica, some of your coworkers yesterday got together for a party, and I'm sorry I did not make it. I wished to make it, but I was told very late in the proceedings that such a party existed, and I missed it in the Slack. I don't know where it was in the Slack. Who attended that moved you?
The people that had to drive a far distance moved me because I would not have done the same for them.
It's a hard drive.
Some people were on a red eye that morning.
Some people showed up off a red eye from Vegas and they looked pretty tired. And I said, I'm surprised you're here. But then I realized this is a hair of the dog situation. You got to keep it rolling. 'Cause as soon as you hit the pillow.
Nothing a PK can't fix, am I right? Am I right?
A little TSO.
PK3.
Little TSO. But I was very tired. And I definitely needed that drink. But I also said, this means a lot to me. And it was just a normal Tuesday where we could drink, but that's all it was. Hey, let's go out and have a couple of drinks. I'm like, I need to be here for this because I love drinks. I have a dog inside of me.
Just another Tuesday in Miami. Were you surprised by any of those numbers? 76% of pet owners would go into debt for their dog. Would you go into debt for Willow?
Well, the reality is, like, owning a pet is really expensive if something goes wrong. Like, I know Mike's dog had to get, like, a really expensive surgery done. And a lot of people are in the position where they're like, my dog is sick. They go to the vet. The vet's like, we need to do this, like, emergency surgery. If you don't, like, your dog's going to die or your cat's going to die. And it's going to cost $10,000. And maybe you don't have that money just laying around. Most people don't. And yeah, I could easily see why you'd go into debt paying for something, especially when it's like a life or death situation. You care about your pet and you don't know what to do.
Did go into debt paying for my dog who had an autoimmune disease, and it was life-saving, but she got it within the first 8 months of her life. It turned out to be great because she's lived a happy and full life there, but it was $10,000 to save my dog's life. As in a single income family, it wasn't easy.
So bad to get fired because you might lose your pets.
Yeah.
Greg, how is it, Chris, and you help me with this because we have not done enough of a job today promoting your father's Exactos and your father's mock draft and your father's podcast, The Greg Cody Show featuring Greg Cody. But you have seen, Chris, you've been front row seat witness to today's show through Stan and Samson careened live out of control for a long time, and your dad spun out. And then he spun out and tried to leave the studio, didn't know how the penalty box worked anymore, and tried to leave through a door as if he didn't understand how doors work.
Push the door, called Andrew Hawkins, Walter Hawkins. It's not
You've spun out.
Not been great for you.
In fairness, Andrew Hawkins, a generic name. Okay, if you have a particularly unusual name, I'm more apt to place a face than if you have a name John Smith or
So
something
Hawkins
like that.
is.
I only know one other.
Andrew Hawkins is a very good-looking man. So's Method Man. They both look like they could be People Sexiest Man of the Year.
Okay, very good.
They
I'm
really
glad
do.
we finally closed the loop on that.
Yeah.
One
charge.
One thing that I wanted to do here today before we got out of here is to remember and celebrate, because the sports machine can move very fast, and it seems, I don't think I have this wrong, more often than not, we're talking around here about somebody who died. I don't know if it's more often than not.
I would doubt that.
It's too often. More often than we ever have. We're stopping to take a somber tone about somebody who left a mark on us in the sports world when Mike Patrick, during a time in football when it was growing in this country, when ESPN had the kind of signature voice for 18 straight years on Sunday Night Football because ESPN was getting into the football game, making it bigger and bigger in America, one of the signature voices was Mike Patrick. And quietly, a great broadcaster for 20 years on Sunday Night Football. Somehow, I would say, escaped much of the withering criticism that will come down on the head of every broadcaster today, including Al Michaels, because, oh, your tone's not good there, your energy's not good, you sound like an old man, get out of the way, old man. Mike Patrick, universal praise, dies at the age of 80. And Mike, I don't know what you associate with him, but what I associate with him is talking to him, hearing his dulcet voice, and then being surprised when he said what a rigorous smoker he was. Like that, that just being taken aback, just assuming that he would be somebody who would always protect those blessed pipes.
I loved Mike Patrick on ACC basketball. Did a lot of great memorable games with Dick Vitale. I saw Dick Vitale posted a tribute to Mike Patrick when he was the voice of Sunday Night Football, paired with Joe Theismann. And I know people had some feelings and they were replaced. But for me, that was when I was in high school watching Sunday Night Football, and it was a marquee game, and he was the voice attached to it, and he was one of my favorites. I love that broadcast team. I thought they were hilarious. I love Mike Patrick's style of doing those games. So I was made very sad by that. I know he hadn't been doing it for a while, and it's just another reminder that the older that you get, the more of these people that have had influence on your life, on your career even, are going to go.
Do you know how rare it is these days when criticism is the main sport to be a broadcaster that can live your lifespan and then die, and you will not hear very much of a bad word as any of that was happening? Like even Joe Buck, like a child prodigy, is viewed as someone that, oh, he doesn't root for my team or he's partial. If you're always broadcasting the games, I don't think that people understand how difficult it is to be someone who is quietly professional in the broadcast space, never to look at me, so it never becomes Gus Johnson or whatever it is has personality that evolves the game, but doesn't stay totally out of the way of the game. Because Mike Patrick was sort of like Vern Lundquist in this space where you're like, oh my God, his voice reminds me of a Saturday afternoon or a Sunday night, raspy. It seems like he's got a drink in his hand. It sounds like he might be wearing a broadcaster, colorful broadcaster coat, and I might hear the tinkle of a glass of ice. He's calling Sunday Night Football.
There might be a reason for that. There might be a reason that type of broadcaster that reminds you of, hey, they could be doing this with a cocktail in their hands. It's because they probably were back then, because it was more acceptable. Yeah, and we're never getting those guys back. Guys with that vibe don't exist anymore.
Who's allowed to skate now? I say this, I'm asking you guys this question genuinely. Who's allowed to skate as a broadcaster who lives an entire lifespan on a stage as large as something like 18 years on Sunday Night Football? Because you guys saw how the Fangs came out for Dick Vitale and Lee Corso. Like, you're not... Mike Patrick bowed out before the criticism got to him.
No, I don't think so. I remember there was a website that Fired Joe Morgan was a blog that popped up. When I was in high school, wasn't so much social media, but it was these blogs, and Mike Patrick got replaced from Sunday Night Football because people felt a certain way about him. And then his assignments started getting worse and worse as he got older, and then social media came along, and then you realize, oh, people don't feel the way that I feel about Mike Patrick, who I thought was generally awesome. And I just miss the time where Yeah, people had their opinions maybe, but they weren't just totally pushed into those opinions because of social media just trying to gather steam behind a take. Like I thought broadcasting when I was growing up was amazing. I didn't have any bad opinions about anybody. Hell, man, I thought Phil Simms was good. And now you open up the internet and you find out, like, wait, no one thinks anyone is good? This is kind of bullshit.
Is that where we are? Like, no one's any good now. No one. Noah Eagle is getting a lot of praise, right?
Yeah, but he also gets shit too.
Ernie Johnson.
Harlan's
who's above reproach?
So I think that there's like a few guys, and I think Buck is like coming out of the other side. Like he's not nearly as polarizing because now he's been around for over a generation. There's like the people that are tastemakers right now were kids growing up recognizing that Joe Buck is a soundtrack of a big game.
He's had like a I don't give a shit vibe for the last like 6 years that I think has resonated.
Mm-hmm. And I think that Harlan, Joe Tess, Bob Wischusen on the hockey side,
Ian
Joe
Eagle.
Buck, Ian Eagle, like
Spiro Ditas.
Well, no one can say Mo Alley Cox the way that Spiro
Thank
Ditas can. 1 o'clock window, Mo Alley Cox. That's Spiro Ditas. But yeah, there's a few guys there.
Not true, Dan.
No one can say that.
I've
Chris
just lost
Whittingham.
so many Mo Alley Cox overs, 13.5 yards.
Because he catches a 12-yard touchdown. That's the thing. You got to bet the anytime touch.
Can we put it on the poll? Can anyone scream touchdown Mo Alley Cox the way that Spiro
Can I
Ditas
just
can?
get 2 catches?
Just 2.
You're getting one.
Just 2. But
Gonna
it might
get
be over
one-
7.5
gonna
yards.
Get 1 for 6 yards.
It's a touchdown, though.
The AFC South. At 1 o'clock window, Spiro.
That's beautiful.
It's a great
It's
thing.
like Colts Raiders 1 o'clock. They got to come over to this
There are
side. They're-
voices that belong in time zones. Spiro Ditas, 1 o'clock, AFC South. Get me there, pal.
Ernie Johnson is above reproach, right? Everyone likes, like, if I were to say highest of the Q ratings anywhere, not going to cause any polarizations. What's the top of the food chain on? I like just hearing this person around sports. I have no bad opinions of him. I don't think he roots against my team. I don't think he's an asshole. I don't think he's an egomaniac. I don't dislike his opinions. He's just a nice man on television. Nice person on television.
I think Bob Lee was like that.
Yeah.
I think Mike Tirico is sort of like that. Just benign in a good way, not polarizing, very professional.
You'll never hear a woman on this list because
I was going to say Doris Burke.
even if
but
they're
Doris
amazing
Burke.
at their job.
Doris Burke's a good example.
No, but she's right. She's right that by virtue of simply being a woman talking about sports, she could be all of these people, and it's
polarizing.
when it need not be.
Chris Whittingham.
Steve Martin also.
How'd that poll come back, by the way? Does he suck at everything except soccer? Or?
At Le Batard Show, we will update the polls after the show, but at the moment, Ron McGill has shown up. Thank you. I don't want to keep him waiting anymore. I think the last couple of weeks he's been rabid with rage, so I'm happy to see him less temperamental right now. What is behind you right now, Ron? What in the office that you're in? What is the artifact that you're most excited about, or that means something to you? Anything?
Nothing really. There's a Cobra back there. There's Mike. Distinguished alumnus, University of Florida.
Wow, congrats.
Very proud of that.
Congrats. Is that better? Like, where does that rank? The greatest of the honors that you have received in your career as an ambassador, is it the Hot Dog Hall of Famer, or is it a University of Florida thing?
Very close to each other, but I guess I'm going to have to give UF a little bit of a nudge on that one. That was something that I carried a huge chip on my shoulder because I never actually graduated from the school. So for them to give me a Distinguished Alumnus Award, which I think they've only given 150 out in the history of the school, that was pretty big for me.
How about the Changemaker Award at the Blue Gala just a couple of weeks ago?
Well, just having Mike Ryan be the MC for that prestigious event just made that award that much more prestigious for me.
Ron, are you a Panthers fan? Because I haven't been able to get my Cuban friends over to this team. Tony, what?
Dan, I saw the start of the game, and then my kids started crying, and then I didn't watch.
I'm not. My Cuban friends, I cannot persuade them to watch this sport.
Oh, listen, I love the Panthers, but only in person. Watching hockey on television for me is like watching soccer on television. It just doesn't do anything for me. But when I watch it in person, my gosh, the same thing with NASCAR. You go to NASCAR, watching it on television, it's just a bunch of cars going in a circle. You watch it in person, it is just so intense. And that's what hockey is to me. I would say hockey is probably my favorite sport of all to watch in person.
I'm going to Talladega this weekend, and I've been told, as someone that's been close to the cars in Homestead and feeling the power in your chest, that there is, it feels like Armageddon is circling by you every lap at Talladega because it's a super speedway. This is going to be my first super speedway race.
What are the details? It's the camper. What detail are you? Is it a content opportunity?
Yeah. No, DraftKings actually this whole thing came about because DraftKings knew that I wanted to go, and they made something happen very late for my friends and I. So I'm going to be out there giving some picks. I'm camping out the entire weekend at Talladega Super Speedway, going to the Justin Moore concert. Going to hang out with the Alabama football team at the Xfinity Series. I'm super excited about this because, like I said, it's a super speedway. This Talladega, for me, everyone feels a certain way about the Brickyard and feels a certain way about Daytona. The Talladega race is the most unpredictable race. It's the most dangerous race. You're going to probably have several big ones there. Super speedway racing is quite random. It's just pure chaos. But also, the big draw for Talladega is it is the biggest party in the circuit. People will show their buttholes if you ask them to.
Okay, that's unnecessary.
Asking them might be unnecessary because they
I don't want to talk
spread
about
those
it. It's an odd ask.
It's about the buttholes. I'm telling you, this is the thing.
Unneeded.
I've said this on so many corporate Zooms.
Okay,
like, what's the
please-
deal with the buttholes?
all right,
and
stop
everyone's like,
doing that.
yes, no, it's a thing. That's not an inappropriate question to ask.
Okay,
Or
thank
to
you.
ask.
Thank you for nothing.
Thank you, Roy.
You got it, Greg.
Chris, you told me that somebody on the Boost Mobile hotline accused your father of something that I did not hear yesterday. Can you play that for me, please?
Hey guys, Zach from Coconut Creek. I had jury duty with Greg Cody in August last year, and I caught him sitting there reading his own book. I'll hang up and listen.
Is that true?
August of last year.
Jury duty. Reading your own book.
It's very possible.
Huh. You know one way to avoid being caught reading your own book?
To listen to my own book. Yeah.
Now you're saying something to Bill, huh?
I hear it's a very good book.
Uh-huh.
But,
Hey, well, I think that was just a very sly move on Greg's part to promote the book. I mean, people say, "Hey, that's Greg Cody. What's he reading?" Hey, I got to read that because that's just sly marketing on my part. Congrats, Greg. I think you did a great job.
Thank you, Ron. And people who don't write for a living probably don't know this, but when I read a column I've written, even though I wrote it and know what it says, I don't need to read it. When I read that column, I try to read it as a reader is reading it, and I also read it for errors. I read it instructionally for a way I should have turned that phrase that I didn't and might next time. So there's a value to that. When a book comes out, I read it for many of the same reasons. Is there any shame in reading your own book? I don't know. The caller implies so.
I would say
don't
that
feel
there's
it.
shame in what Stugotz did, which is never read or write his own book. I would say that there should be greater shame in that. Let me play a video here for Ron McGill. Again, Stugotz out with a toothache. We'll miss the draft. Can we get this octopus on the screen so that Ron McGill can tell us what's happening here? Is this an octopus, a jellyfish? What is this thing? This is what this is.
That's an octopus. Actually, it looks like a type of squid, to be honest with you. That's a squid.
What is that? That is a ballet type movement. It's haunting and majestic and wonderful and weird. It's all of those things.
I don't know the specifics of that, but it certainly looks like a type of squid to me. And, all of these types of animals, squids, octopus, they are incredible in their ability to camouflage themselves, to reshape themselves, to do things that people think would be impossible, but they make it possible. That's just one of the many wonders of nature, man. That's why I do what I do. You learn something new every day.
What would you say like that, though, Ron, in terms of just a beautiful video, a majestic dance? Like if I'm saying to you something that feels spiritual in nature, you would say what is the thing to the eye that most awes you visually?
The dance of the mannequin bird. Watch the dance of the mannequin bird. It is such an incredibly beautiful, intense dance. The way he moves and shuffles back and forth on the branch and does this thing with his feathers. Man, it's such a piece of work, such a work of art. It's unbelievable.
Ron, we had a debate on the show last week. Would you rather, for the rest of time, be able to understand every language in existence or to be able to understand what animals are saying? I feel like I know where you'll fall on this, but what would you be able to do with that information of being able to understand animals?
Leading the witness, by the way.
Save the planet, by the way.
Yeah, understanding the language of animals, I think I would learn a lot more than just understanding all the languages of people, because I think animals know things or are able to perceive things that we are not, and we would open a whole new channel of communication there that could open a whole new world for us.
Chris,
that's a no-brainer.
What kind of question was that?
I objected, by the way.
I led the witness.
I objected.
You led the witness.
I knew the answer.
It was so loaded. When we were having this discussion last week, and Ron's son walked through the room, I asked Sean, his son, "Hey, if your dad could be given one thing from Earth above all others, wouldn't it be to be able to understand what the animals are saying?" He guessed yes. Is there anything that would go higher than that for you, Ron?
The question would be to understand something. What I want to understand.
To be able to be fluent with the animals, to understand their language. There's nothing that you would prize more than to be given that by Earth. You'd be able to save the planet with that, wouldn't you?
I think I would. Yeah, I think I would.
Wow.
What?
I would rather my dog understand what I'm saying than have him understand what, I mean, Jumpin' Charlie, don't do that. Don't pee there. Pee
Listen,
on the outside.
I think he understands that, Greg. He just does it anyway.
That's true. You're very right.
I do wish I could tell my dog, like, I'll be back in 20 minutes, or like, I'll be back in a couple hours. Like, don't freak out. This is going to be a longer trip. This is going to be a shorter trip. I wish I could explain that part.
Yes,
to her.
me too.
But you can explain that, Jessica. But the reality is, nobody's promised tomorrow, and he just worries about you just like somebody else would worry. You're taking your trip somewhere. God knows what could happen.
Did you just call?
So I mean, that's just something. Animals have very strong bonds, so they know that anything can change at any minute.
Ron, I want to read you a headline, and you tell me how this is possible. Galapagos tortoises at Philadelphia Zoo become first-time parents at nearly 100 years of age.
It's possible because these animals can live. Sometimes there's a belief that they can live in excess of 200 years of age. So if they didn't have the opportunity to connect earlier. Well, better late than never. It doesn't mean that they're infertile. People look at 100 years of age and say, "Oh my God, how could a human being wouldn't be able to, have a baby at 100 years of age?" Well, a human being doesn't live to be 225 years either. So that's like saying, a human had a baby at 50, which is not impossible. It's not, it's not favored, but it certainly is not impossible.
Okay, all right. So tortoises are still randy at that age.
Oh, tortoises! I've seen tortoises randy until they take their last breath. At least the males.
You haven't seen it to the last breath.
So they're like humans. Okay.
You haven't seen till the last breath. You haven't seen a turtle having sex die.
God, can you imagine?
Oh, geez, Dan. You want to get into technicalities now? I've seen, let's say I've seen a turtle having sex and then die the next day at over 100 years old.
Ron, I read a story about giant squids a while ago. Well, I listened to a story about giant squids from David Gran, and it was about how if you were able to find a live giant squid specimen, it would be one of the greatest scientific discoveries because we've only ever seen dead giant squids. In terms of things that haven't been discovered yet that we know are out there, like animal species, is there anything more than the giant squid that would trump that as a scientific discovery?
Well, a giant squid has been found. If you Google, you'll find video that they have got video of a giant squid in the very deep. It's a fleeting video, but it is a verified, true video of giant squid. So we have been able to see them. We haven't been able to, because they occur at such depths that when they finally get to the surface, they are not able to survive. They need that pressure, I think, of the ocean at those great depths to survive. So we do see them sometimes when they wash up on the beach dead, but they have been filmed underneath alive. As far as the missing animal, gosh, I don't know. There's so much talk now about the ivory-billed woodpecker, an animal that was deemed extinct many, many years ago, that there have been some sightings in the swamps of Louisiana. And I know there's people that are dedicating their lives to trying to find that animal. There's also some talk about the Tasmanian wolf, in Australia and New Guinea, that they've seen that. So there it is. See, I told you, that's the giant squid. They actually got some video of it.
They're like 60 feet long, right?
Yes, they're huge. They're actually one of the favorite foods of the sperm whale, which is, of course, a huge whale. But that whale dives like a mile deep to get it. It's unbelievable.
Ron, how smart is that creature? Do we have any idea? Do we have any information on what that creature living knows or can do?
I don't think so. I think a lot of people speculate that they are very intelligent because they are, I think it's the cephalopod family, which is the octopus and squids, which tend to be pretty intelligent in their ability to maneuver and adapt to their environment. The giant squid is, of course, this enormous animal. I mean, like I said, the sperm whale feeds on it. If you look at shots of sperm whales, sometimes you'll see these circular scars on their face, which are the suction pucks of the squid trying to save themselves while the sperm whale's trying to eat them. And they leave scars with these huge suction pucks on their face. It's fantastic stuff.
That is a great dismount. Good seeing you, Ron. Thank you, sir. Always nice seeing you. A reminder to the audience, you are Zoo Miami's greatest donor, his substantive endowment. You are responsible for more in the way of donations than any other group of people. So Ron McGill's endowment is something that gets help straight to the animals. We will talk to you again next week, Ron, and let's do Against the Spread.
That's right. It's time for Against the Spread. And it's brought to you by our friends at DraftKings. DraftKings, the crown is yours. Roy, kick us off.
Game 2, Canadiens at Capitals. The Capitals are leading the series 1-0. The Montreal Canadiens have covered the puck line in the last 6 games against Eastern Conference opponents after coming off overtime. And they will again. They are 1.5 goal underdogs tonight. Go with them against the
Spread. Tony.
I like how Roy gives analytical advice and I give you vibes advice, right? So Houston Rockets, game 2. In Houston, they can't shoot as bad as they did last game.
They can't.
Dan, they can't shoot as bad as they did last game. Okay, Jalen Green's not going to play that bad. Fred VanVleet's not going to play that bad. The Rockets, they're going to come out with their hair on fire.
All right. Well, that seems that it'd be hard to play that way.
It's going to be hard to play, but they are going to play that way. Only -3 at home. Okay, against an older in the tooth, longer in the tooth. Can you say older in the tooth, or how does that work?
I knew what you meant.
Long in the tooth. They have old teeth too. But the Golden State Warriors, are they going to be able to compete with the Rockets with the pace that they want to come out with? I don't think so. I'm going to take Houston -3 against the spread.
Against the spread.
That old-timey music.
Old in the tooth music.
This is just not the way to get tomorrow's demo.
Love this.